What's up, Sifters? Hope you guys are having an awesome week. I know I am. And that's because I've been playing some awesome video games once again. And we're going to talk about them today on GameFace 407. And as always, alongside me to do that is the one and only Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
Awesome? Really?
I think so. I mean,
Dragon
I had fun
Ball?
playing. I actually had fun playing it. Believe it or not. We'll talk. We'll get to it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to GameFace 407. I have some great news. The chat is back. Our chat PC is working again. So you guys will be back in the show today, which is a huge, huge difference. Like, I really noticed, like, going back and listening to the show after last week, the lack of you, basically, that was not in the show last week. So you guys are back. And in fact, let me just bring that up right now to prove the point. There you guys are. And in fact, while we're here, I'll just thank you guys, because a bunch of you guys were hooking us up with Twitch Prime and some other stuff. Eric and Cartmanis and I were talking about Steelers. Vincent says, did you do anything but uninstall the Logitech bloatware? That's really all I did, and restarted the PC like 8 times, and then it seemed to load. I mean, it's working now.
It auto-updated something, and everything had to kind of
figure
itself out.
That's what I think, too. Mega Drive Guy, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. Now's a good time for you guys to do it, so I can thank you personally, which I love to do. Fried X100, thank you for Twitch Prime. Andy T. Monahan, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1 for 54 freaking months. Thank you, man. That's awesome. Minority Games, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1 for 63 months. That's freaking amazing. We got anything else in here? I know a ton of you guys subscribed last week, so maybe there won't be as many this week.
Pintor, you missed that.
Where was he? There he is. Mellow Pintor gifted a Tier 1 sub to Black Sierra. Thank you very, very much, man. Our community appreciates it, and so do I. So anyway, you guys are back in the house for GameFace 407, which should make the show better. I pretty much guarantee it. One quick thing for housekeeping today before we get going. I mentioned a couple months ago we were doing a bunch of site updates at SIFTD.net. And we did a bunch, and then there was a hiatus, and now here come more updates. So you may have noticed already that a lot of publications have started working better in the website. The website's faster. All the pages load a lot more quickly. There's been a huge change just in like the last week. And we're kind of at the point now where a bunch of new stuff is about to start coming online. We're not just doing maintenance of the old website anymore. So to me anyway, someone who works on this site all day, every day, and hopefully to you, the people who use it every day, there is some cool stuff coming. I just want to tease that for you guys. So keep an eye on that. Matt, how was your week?
All right.
Yeah?
I started Invisalign this week, so if my enunciation seems a little weird, that's why.
Oh, really?
I'm learning to talk.
Yeah. Why did you decide to do that now?
Well, I'd done it before, but stopped for a while. But I did it this time because basically my lower teeth resemble a medieval cemetery more than anything else.
That's funny.
And my dentist was like, if you don't straighten these out, they're going to be very hard to keep
and clean. Yeah.
So it's just it's not really cosmetic. It's more for
keeping your teeth,
future health.
Awesome.
And
you sound fine, by the way.
Yeah, if I talk fast enough, I start to I got a little 80s nerd. I got a little there's a little bit of a lisp.
I think I might like that. What about y'all?
It's like, yeah, what are you doing? Come on,
really?
It's just smooth surface that's different now.
Yeah.
You can hear it a little bit with like the sibilant stuff.
Yeah, but not much. I'm surprised. Actually,
I had it before, so I'm a little used to it.
I never knew that you had it before. So
well, that was years ago.
Oh.
That was That was before that you founded SIFTD. I think. And then at some point they were like. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and they're like, well, you can continue doing the Invisalign, or you can wear this other device that will make you not die. And I'm like, well, let's go for the not die thing. But that is alleviated to a large degree now, so
that's good.
So it shouldn't be that much of an issue.
Awesome.
But yeah, so that is happening now. Good times.
How long till you're done?
September next year.
Oh, okay, so a year. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have it on top and the bottom.
Yeah,
you're doing both.
It's mostly the bottom, but part of it's to realign because they were like, yeah, and part of this was because of wearing the sleep apnea device. The front teeth and the back teeth are the only ones that touch when I close my jaw.
Oh, really?
And they're like, eventually you are going to bite down on something, and those two front teeth are going to snap hitting each
Because
other.
you're putting
and
all
one of
the
them,
pressure.
and one of them is going to crack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, let's not do that.
Let's prevent that tragedy.
You know, like I got strong teeth.
Yeah.
You know, I'm never had a cavity, never had anything
Wow.
like that. But
You've never had a cavity.
No.
Wow, that's amazing.
But,
they should study you for science.
No, I never had a cavity, never broken a bone. We have
Wow.
my sister saying we have strong Neanderthal skeletons.
You must. That's amazing. I've broken like 6 bones. I've had 50 cavities.
She did that genetic test, and we do in fact have the highest percentage of Neanderthal genes that like a European can have.
Interesting.
Like we are old Nordic people.
Interesting. Yes. Okay.
So, but I would definitely. Like, my dad actually only had like a very few of his teeth left, and he was a little older than me. Like, he didn't do anything bad with it. Just some people that happens.
Yeah.
And so luckily I got my mom's teeth, so I'm just like, let's hang on to them.
Thank God for good genetics.
Like, let's not mess with that.
Yeah. Well, if you hear Matt's voice sounds a little different today, now you know why. I think you sound great though. I really can't tell.
Yeah, it's probably not any different, but you never know. Like I would. It's probably like if I stop thinking about it and like. If we get an argument or something, and I'm like,
you're gonna fling your Invisalign at
That's
me.
the last we'll see.
I'm gonna have to like dodge your Invisalign.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Silk Snake says sleep apnea is scary. Yeah, I have my best man from my wedding has sleep apnea really bad. Anytime I go on trips with the boys, I always end up rooming with him, and it is a nightmare. Oh my God, he has the machine, and the machine keeps me awake. Yeah. The PAP machine or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, I've never used one of the. Apparently, mine's not bad enough for that, really.
Yeah.
But I might, if it becomes like a restful sleep issue, I may get one while I have this.
Yeah.
Like just to
see.
Although I'm kind of like worried because I think it would scare the cats.
Probably.
Like, what the fuck is that?
They'll get used to it though.
Darth Vader over here.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys are having a good week. There's so many good games coming out in October. I'm sure all of you guys are playing something now that you're enjoying. We're going to try to present a few more of those games to you guys today that maybe you might be interested in playing. That's our goal, and that's our job here at GameFace. Hopefully, you guys can trust us at this point to kind of point you in the right direction on some of the biggest games and the best games in the industry. I think we're ready to go to headlines. It's been a pretty big week of news, but no news that kind of brings down the house, I guess I would say. Probably the biggest story is that there was a massive Pokemon leak this week. I think the strapline or the headline from the leak is
many Pokemon should be on the sex offenders list.
Right.
Is what the actual like internally they're writing like weird mythology that is like very true to real mythology where like some of these Pokemon, like it's very strange. Like
getting that inside look was a little.
We probably can't repeat some of it on Twitch. Actually,
yeah,
it's graphic.
Yeah, I think what most people were talking about though were glimpses at the next mainline Pokemon.
Most people were talking about the sex stuff.
Oh, really?
I assure you. Yeah, I had to go digging for actual new information.
Really?
Most of it was just like, I can't believe my favorite Pokemon is a monster. Like,
really?
Well, they are pocket monsters.
Yeah.
And we just didn't know what pocket referred to until now.
That's great. Well, all the headlines on the websites, actually, none of them even mention that stuff, which is interesting.
Yeah, because they don't want to get fucking blown out. Neither would I if I was writing that part. But I assure you, in terms of the normal people talking, not normal, I mean, extremely online game nerds being normal people in this case, they are talking about the weird mythology stuff. Yeah. It's people are making videos.
What were some of the other parts of it? I didn't really dive into that at all.
I didn't get too far into it, but like Typhon Flare or whatever, like the Flare guy with like the weasel with the flame and stuff. Like that was a big one, and they're like, someone was like, it's like, oh, this scene doesn't age very well, and it's from Arceus, and it's like your character's surrounded by like 6 of them, and it's just like, wow, look at all these guys, and everyone's like, run, like.
That's funny.
It's weird.
Yeah, because it's freaking Pokemon.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like
I think we kind of knew though, didn't we?
Sure, but also I will say, like, internally, your creators of your favorite children's content do that shit all the time.
Yeah.
Like, animators are the horniest motherfuckers you've ever seen, and there are naked drawings of every animated character you love all over their notebooks. Like there was it's
think about being an artist, because you could any person you're attracted to, you could just draw them naked.
Right. Just like the Roger Rabbit thing.
Right.
But when it came out on Laserdisc, everyone was like, "Oh, if you frame by frame it, why are you frame by framing that?"
Yeah.
But if you frame by frame it, you can see like Jessica Rabbit has no panties on a couple
Really?
times. Like it's several. Yeah, there's one frame where Betty Boop has like her top drops. And
Really?
It's all right. It was all right, but it's one frame, so
Yeah,
you'd never
yeah.
see it in the theater. But when you could frame by frame it on home video, I was like, well, right. And those are gone from modern.
The versions that have come out now, yeah.
Even the Rescuers.
Really?
The Rescuers, when they're taking off, they're running by on the seagull or whatever, like the albatross, and if you freeze like the background, there's a bunch of posters passing by in the background, too fast to see in full speed, but one of them is like a porn poster, like a naked woman. And so that's gone too. In modern
I would guess so.
But again, these are things that nobody saw until the advent of home video, where you could frame by frame things.
Yeah, and stop it yourself.
But my question always remains: who is frame by framing this stuff like that? Like, did you frame by frame the entire Rescuers movie
that's
see?
Really weird.
But there are animation fanatics who would go through that just to see what the backgrounds look like.
Sure, yeah.
Because if you want to draw backgrounds, something like that is useful
helpful,
to see. Like, how did they do that? How
Right.
did they do something moving that fast?
Yeah.
Especially back in the day when all animation was just a picture of pictures.
Yeah, or like the Flintstones, where it'd have the same tree that goes by.
Oh, yeah.
They do this.
Well, that one we don't need to frame by frame. We know how Hanna-Barbera did most of their stuff. It's all right there. But.
Yep. So some of the other Pokemon stuff that came...
I hope whoever animated the Scooby-Doo Gang's walk cycle got royalties for it, because they used that for most of my life.
Yeah, it's pretty great, though, honestly.
Yeah,
they all walk differently. I can almost remember the gait of all of them. Yeah.
The key is always being able to identify something by silhouette. And that's all. Everything in Scooby-Doo is a flawless design.
That's for sure. Let's get back to the Pokemon leak. Now, there were some hints at the next mainline Pokemon game. Not a ton, though. I was kind of surprised there wasn't more information about that. Mm-hmm. And I think the headline that every website ran with after this leak was that there was a hint at the Switch 2's in development name. You guys may remember the GameCube was called the Dolphin. All Nintendo hardware generally has like a code name that it goes under while it's being developed. And according to this, its code name is Ounce.
Ounce?
O-U-N-C-E. Like it weighs an ounce or something.
Okay. Ounce?
What the hell? I really don't know if that's true.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
To me, this sounds a little weird. Like, I don't know if that's actually... I think maybe people are reaching a little bit or hoping for that. But
maybe it's the Nintendo Wizard.
Oh.
So it's an Oz reference.
Oh, interesting.
The abbreviation of ounce is Oz.
Yeah. I think people are reaching
also
a
weird
bit.
they'd use an American measuring unit for that, because no one uses ounces except us.
And then in typical hacker fashion, leaker fashion, they leaked all this stuff and kind of ruined Nintendo's day. But then they were like, oh, we're not going to spoil certain stuff that we found.
Yeah, the leakers are holding things
Which
back.
is weird.
I mean, some of them there's probably a double-sided thing. A, they may just not want to get sued too hard.
Too hard.
And B, they might
lightly.
They might want to hold it for ransom of some kind, although I think that will backfire. The ninjas will get you.
Oh, yeah. That would be a huge mistake. Gigantic mistake. Vincent says the leakers are specifically holding details about the new stuff for the most part. For example, there's a Z to A playable build in the leak, but it won't leak. Oh, it'll leak. It'll definitely all leak. And eventually these people will wear out on the attention they got from this first round of stuff. They'll want more attention, and they'll start releasing more stuff, and eventually it will all come out. I am very confident that is going to be the case, that eventually all this news will leak. Retro Modern Gamer says, or to steal Nintendo's thunder at a later date. Absolutely. Yep, it could do that too.
Yeah, like maybe wait until right before the next Pokemon Direct or something.
Right, where they think that they're going to unveil, or if they think they're going to unveil the next mainline Pokemon, they'll jump in and be like, oh, here it is. Here's everything.
I mean, that's a good way to get Interpol on your ass.
Yeah.
But you've already hacked Nintendo. I mean, it was a social engineering hack. It was just somebody gave up their password.
On purpose, or somebody?
No, social engineering. So they were phished.
Oh, okay. So somebody sent them an email saying, hey, your bank account's been compromised.
Someone fell for the whole,
give us your password
your
thing.
Netflix won't renew if you don't click this link from 84335.
Yeah, how do people still fall for this crap?
Always look at the email that sent it to you.
Yeah.
And make sure, if they don't call you by name, it's not them.
Well, the other thing, too, that I've learned over time is that it used to be, it still is, it's easy to spot the fake emails because there's like, it won't be the right email address, the formatting is screwed up sometimes, the images are blurry, sometimes there's misspellings.
That's not really common anymore. Like, they're usually, the emails themselves are usually pretty perfect these days.
But here's the thing, they do it on purpose because they know people like us who will spot that and be like, oh, that's fake. They know they're not going to fool us and get our money. They're looking for the people who are dumb enough to be fooled by the email.
Right. But
because those are the people they'll actually end up getting money from.
Right, but I see a lot of spam emails, and they have gotten much more authentic.
I mean, they used to be terrible.
Now, I mean, they can even spoof the actual PayPal domain now.
Yeah.
It's very convincing, except I know damn well that like PayPal doesn't randomly invoice me for $400 of McAfee virus protection. Like, that's not a thing.
Here's the thing, people.
I got 4 of those emails in one day. I'm like, you aren't all auto-renewing on the same day. I know that. So.
Here's the thing, people. Nobody is ever going to ask for your email or your email address in an email. That is never going to happen. As long as you never give your email address or a password to somebody in an email, you're probably going to be okay, like 99% of the time.
In this case, though, much like that Insomniac hack, it's probably pretty targeted towards whoever this was. Like, this was probably a long-term thing. They identified some people that were probably vulnerable to this and custom-tailored something to their interest or to their
followed them on
concerns.
social media for a while to see what they were into, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like, this seems like somebody found a weak spot, being an actual employee, and worked it. Somehow.
I'm surprised the notes for the next Pokemon weren't just make it better than Pal World. Because that's, to me, at this point, that's kind of the goal of the next mainline Pokemon.
I don't think they're capable of that.
I don't know if they are either, Matt. Game Freak.
Not next game, anyway.
Yeah.
Like, maybe give them a couple games to warm up.
I mean, Arceus, whatever, was definitely tiptoeing in that direction, but it's not there.
This is the closest,
yeah.
I'd say. I mean, I don't need the guns necessarily, but like...
Vincent says define better.
Feels like it was made in the last 15 years.
Yeah, that's a good way to... Yep, in a sentence, there you go.
Like, I didn't think Pal World was, like, revolutionary or anything. Just like... But it did feel like more like what Pokemon should be like now.
Yeah, it's in like 4K, and it has like...
I mean, I don't expect 4K. The Switch can't do that.
Don't go too far,
But I'm talking about game mechanics and world design. You know,
yeah.
Feeling like you're in a place rather than the same old. I mean, I don't think they'll ever leave the turn-based RPG environment. That's what Pokemon is. But in terms of like something like Arceus, I feel like Arceus should have been more like Pal World in terms of scope and scale.
And as long as they have the Arceus spin-off, I'm okay with still having the turn-based RPG form of Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't think you should change the core. I mean, I think they should expand it and make it more interesting and like go.
They can improve it.
You know, make it a little. You know, I at some point, I think you should try to make a Pokemon, mainline Pokemon game that incorporates the whole world.
Yeah, I agree.
Everything.
Because at this point, how many settings have there been? Like,
how many games are there? That's how many.
Yeah, like 9. I mean, imagine a Pokemon game that has all of those regions.
Yeah,
that would be insane.
I mean, but like, and like
that would be the last Pokemon game.
That would be like, that'd be like Smash Brothers Ultimate, basically. But it's like the biggest response you ever got was Gold, Silver. That then, at the end, it opened up the Kanto region from the first game, and it was like, that's, traditionally speaking, it's like the most impressive thing a Pokemon game is take you back to the old places you've been.
Well, look at this, Matt. This trailer here. Look how it says not actual gameplay footage.
Yeah, we know.
But I mean, that's how good the creatures look in Power World. Like, that would be gameplay footage for Power World.
Yeah. Although, I mean, some of that might also just be like, this animation's not in the game.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, those models are definitely not in this game.
No.
For sure.
But they could be.
Yeah. Then it would run at 10 frames per second. Because these recent Pokemon games, man, they are chugging along anymore. So Game Freak definitely needs a new engine. Too bad we didn't see anything about that in the leak, that they're working on a new engine for these games, because that would probably be the best news that we could possibly get about Pokemon.
I mean, it's probably about time for some. I mean, the new system would probably support something a little more advanced. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's not like they have to, because it's not like these games don't sell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hurting them.
They may be looking at it like, well, we could run this engine on Switch 2 and actually hit 30 frames per second consistently on Switch 2.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, they may actually look at it that way. So anyway, I don't know how much poking around you guys did. We did curate the story on SIFTD, so if you read it, it didn't have the stuff that you were talking about, like the sex stuff or whatever. But really, so far, it doesn't feel like it was all that big of a deal. Like, when I first saw the headline, I was like, oh my god.
I mean, the big deal is that Pokemon was compromised.
Yeah.
Like that's
right.
Like no,
Game Freak was hacked.
Yeah, you usually don't get anything out of that.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, did you guys see that we're synergized today with our shirts? We're both wearing our gray and silver, or black and silver Sifted shirts today.
It was not intentional.
No, it was just completely
clean.
on accident. Yeah. Silkshank says, whose fault is it that Pokemon hasn't evolved? I'm sure ideas are brought up, and are they just told no? I think there's a reluctance to change too much of the core Pokemon games.
I mean, it depends who you ask. Like, there's a lot of the usual nonsense, lazy dev stuff. But like, you do hear there's been some internal stuff where basically like Game Freak just doesn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, or Pokemon companies just there's a big ain't broke, don't fix it happening.
And to your point, when you keep selling 20 to 30 million copies of each one, why change?
And everybody, people can whine as much as they want about the performance issues and all this, but like those games sell millions and millions and millions of nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
So
they really don't.
Why bother?
Yeah. I mean,
and it's weird. I mean, it's partly weird because that's so not the Nintendo philosophy.
No, you're right.
It reminds you that this company is not Nintendo.
Right. Yeah, and they're basically just a partner.
There is stuff in the last few Pokemon games that Nintendo QC would never have allowed.
Oh, no way.
One of their own games.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, after we just played Echoes of Wisdom, the frame rate Nintendo's pretty loosey-goosey on.
Yeah, but I mean, like, not even just frame rate performance. I mean, there's like
creative decisions,
weird choices,
yeah.
like things that just don't really synergize right. Things it doesn't feel like a Nintendo game, whereas like the old Pokemon games, often it was hard to distinguish.
I mean, one thing I will say, Silksnake, is my guess is Nintendo is very reluctant to criticize Game Freak because,
yeah,
I mean, they have contracts with Game Freak, but inevitably Game Freak could be like, this contract's up. We're going to go talk to these other guys. That would be a nightmare scenario for Nintendo. Nightmare.
Yeah, I'd be very curious about the legality. I mean, because Pokemon Company owns all that stuff, right? And they're not, they're under contract to Nintendo, but Nintendo doesn't own them? Or
right.
does Nintendo partially own them?
No, I don't think it does own them at all. I think they're a complete separate entity.
Because there is a scenario in which Pokemon Company could just take Pokemon to Sony.
Yeah. Yep.
That seems impossible.
My guess is that their contracts they sign are for like 10-year, 15-year chunks. Like I don't think they're re-upping every year or anything like that.
No, I would imagine those are very long-term.
But I'm sure Nintendo minds its P's and Q's when it's dealing with Pokemon Company for sure. I mean, that's just one of those boats that you don't want to rock. So, as for why, I mean,
Nintendo owns half of the Pokemon Company.
Oh, really? It does?
Vincent and Eth Demon says.
Oh, I didn't realize that actually. So is it like 49%?
Probably it's like just enough that Nintendo
that they don't have control.
Nintendo gets to voice their opinion, but they don't get to make the decision.
Yeah, I mean that matters a lot, whether it's 49 or 50 or 51, because then you have actual control over the company. At 49%, you can just like give like helpful suggestions if you want to, but you're not in control ultimately of what happens. So that's important. But yeah, I think it's a confluence of different things. I don't think Game Freak wants to change the game all that much. I think Nintendo's reluctant to criticize Game Freak all that much, and so we're just in this malaise.
It sounds like Nintendo just doesn't want to have, like, why bother? Like, we get all this money
from it. It's
a
license to print money. It's just like,
if we really want to innovate somehow, we can do these spin-off things.
Yeah.
Like, let them do their thing.
Yeah. When do you think we're going to hear about the next mainline Pokemon? Now that this has happened, who knows?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine that whatever the Z to A thing is, it's going to be Switch 2 focused. So, like, probably about when they're ready to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a trailer out already for Z to A.
Yeah, but like, we don't know about the the differences or the new mechanics or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, all they gave us was this weird Cyber World trailer for it so far. So yeah, we'll see, but I think it's probably going to be different than mainline Pokemon games, at least in some way.
From what they're showing here, does feel like it's going to be a larger scale, and maybe a more involved world somehow. Like there's some complexity to what they're showing here that just isn't.
Oh yeah, it's definitely.
Like, hey, they might throw the camera behind your character this time. Like, who knows? Like, they might get crazy.
Vincent's saying probably 2026, and he says one of the leaks says that the Gen 10 game is cross-gen, meaning Switch 1 and Switch 2.
I mean, that would be in character.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, you'd be stupid to do anything else, honestly. So anyway, that's the latest on Pokemon. I mean, my guess, if I had to guess, is maybe we see the next mainline early next year. Maybe it's something they show when they finally show us the Switch 2 for the first time.
Maybe, like, in terms of like, hey, this is coming one day.
Yeah.
Eventually.
And it's, cross-platform or whatever. I think when they show Switch 2, almost everything we see is going to be cross-platform.
Oh, I would expect no Switch 2 exclusives for years.
Yeah, I don't know that Nintendo is all that concerned about selling Switch 2 hardware. Like, I think as long as they manage to keep selling the software, I don't think it's that concerned about like getting people to force them to upgrade to Switch 2.
No, I wouldn't think so. It's like, but you wonder like if Mario Kart 9 is in there, or you know,
I would hope that's exclusive to Switch 2.
You'd think like you'd be doing something with that you'd have to use the new hardware right?
Yeah, I mean Mario Kart 8 is what, 10 years old at this point?
About that, yeah.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But you know what? Nintendo just put out its Holidays 2024 TV commercial, and one of the 3 games in that commercial is still Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, what's the number 1 selling game on the system?
It's crazy. It won't die. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on Pokemon. Next up, there is a partner preview for Xbox on Thursday in 2 days. And it is a third-party partner preview, meaning that they're not showing any of their first-party stuff, so don't expect to see like Indiana Jones or any of those games. They did give us a hint at some of the stuff that it is showing, and Alan Wake 2 DLC is one of the things called, is it called The Lake or something like that?
I don't know.
I think it is.
Wake at the Lake.
Yeah, actually, you're right. And they're showing the Yakuza Pirate game that was just announced. And already, Matt, could I just say that, like, I'm already kind of burned out on it? They have blown this game out like you would not believe since they announced it. They let everybody go to TGS and capture, like, hours of footage from it. They've put out, like, I'm not exaggerating, Matt, like 5 trailers for this game already. And again, there's hours and hours of gameplay out there. Like, Sega really, it announced this, and then the floodgates just opened. And I guess the reason I brought this up...
What else they got?
Yeah, so you're right.
I still don't see that Shinobi game.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I included this in here is because, one, to let people know that there's a big Xbox event coming up on Thursday, but 2, is like, have we got to the point where these platform holders are just doing events to have events?
Maybe.
Because if these 2 games are the headliners, a DLC for Alan Wake 2 and this game, like, do they really need to have this thing?
I mean, those are 2 pretty big games for this year.
Yeah.
If they came out this year.
I think, doesn't this come out next year, though?
Yeah, they both do. But, like, I'm just saying, if you look at this year's schedule, these would be pretty prominent releases in that schedule.
Yeah. But next year they won't be.
Maybe. I mean, I think
they might get swallowed up.
I'm all in for a Yakuza Pirate game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
I mean, its audience is always.
I probably won't bother with the Alan Wake thing, not because I never finished Alan Wake 2, and I feel like their DLC always feels so tied to like having finished things or continuing things. And I'm like, I'm not gonna understand what any of that is.
I wish more developers made DLC that you don't have to finish the main campaign to play.
I mean, I imagine you don't, because I imagine you'll just like select it from the menu and play it. But I mean, like, you're gonna need to have finished Alan Wake 2 to understand what the hell is going on. Yeah. Even to the degree you understand what's happening in an Alan Wake game.
Right. Even if they have the like story so far video that starts the whole thing to like catch you up or whatever, it still isn't the same. But I do wish more developers would create their DLC in a way that you didn't have to finish like a 50 or 60 hour game to play the new cool content. It is an issue, obviously, with RPGs because you build up your character and you have very specific stats and gear.
Yeah, I mean, I do prefer that to like, here's just another option in the menu.
Yeah,
that's
you'd rather have to finish the game to play the DLC?
I'd rather have it be part of the game.
Yeah,
like I don't like get to this level and this opens up, kind of the way Bethesda does it.
That's a good way to do it in the middle. Say, hey, you have to be level 20 or something to get to do it. Not finish the game, but level 20.
Yeah, but I like continuity. I like to use the same character I made. I like everything to carry over. Like,
I understand that.
Like, it's frustrating, I guess, that like you have to be so far along or maybe even finish the game to play like the Horizon DLC.
Yeah.
At the very least, Frozen Wild, you better not touch that until you're pretty high level.
Right, because you'll get your ass kicked. Yeah.
But like, I like that it's all part of the world and it's all in there, and I like that more than kind of like, oh, here's an episode with
or a side mission or something.
I like it to be integrated into the main game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know there's DLC that I see that I want to play, and I'm like, I've put 35 hours into this game. I need to put another like 7 in it to finish it to get to play the DLC, and with my schedule, that's just like never going to happen. So more times than not, I never really get to play DLC, and so I'm just selfishly asking for a way for that to be remedied. But at what point do these shows, and this may be kind of the breaking point, Matt, where people are like, I feel like you're crying wolf and I'm not tuning in anymore. Like, I feel like this could have a low audience, this one.
I mean, I think it'll have a low audience because it's Xbox.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not. Like, the thing that people, even the Xbox diehards, I think, are really interested in is Microsoft's first-party output, Fable and et cetera. Yeah. And if you're not showing them that, like, what do they want? I mean, what do you? I mean, I nothing against Alan Wake 2 or Yakuza or whatever they're showing. It's like, what do I need to see this for exactly? And why is it tied to Xbox? Because I'm not getting these games on Xbox.
Yeah.
I'm getting them on PC.
I don't even know what they could show me of the Yakuza Pirate game where I'd be like, oh, awesome. Like,
yeah, I don't know what's... I mean,
they've shown so much already.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't even know they showed anything more than that first trailer.
Okay.
Like, that has not penetrated outside of, I think...
It's not popping to the top of your SIFT, I guess.
No, it's also not popping to the top of anything.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen anyone mention that. That's news to me.
Interesting.
That they put more out.
Yeah,
like
you can go look on SIFTD. There's tons of stuff on the game page there.
But also because it's like, I don't care. I don't need to see... I mean, I'm in... Yeah. Yakuza. Like, I don't... Like, what else...
Not as it's Yakuza with pirates.
Right. Pirates,
That's hard to resist.
Like, you don't need to convince me any further. It's Majima, main character, pirates...
Yeah.
In Hawaii, like, it's sold.
And I love the mix of, like, the modern times where you have, like, the dude with the baseball hat on backwards, but also a bunch of people dressed like pirates. It is, I mean, there is definitely no other franchise like
you got to dress for the job you want.
Not the one you got. Yep. So anyway, on Thursday, it will be curated to SIFTD, so we'll probably pin it to the top of your SIFT so you don't miss it. Yeah. Although I'm thinking about not doing that because I do wonder how interested you guys are.
I mean, third party means there might be Stalker.
Would it?
Yeah. So if Stalker's in there, that would be notable.
I mean, Microsoft's publishing that game.
They're not funding it though.
Yeah, it might be. I would give it like a 5% chance.
Yeah, from what I hear, you should give it higher than a 5% chance.
I never looked at that as a third-party game at all because it's an exclusive, obviously. And
Chat's backing me up on that.
Yeah.
Retro Modern Gamer heard they'll be promoting Stalker 2. They'll be coming out next month. That might be the main game they show.
Interesting. That seems weird to me. I would be surprised if Stalker 2 is in that. But maybe I'm wrong on that one. That'd be a pleasant surprise. I do feel like they would market that.
Silk Snake.
What did he say now?
I have no interest in playing a Yakuza game set outside Asia. I've had my fill of games in America. Hawaii is kind of not half and half. America. Like,
I mean, technically it is.
Oh, I mean, we annexed it.
We own it.
But like, go to Hawaii and say, oh, here I am in America, and see how far you get.
Yeah, like, compare Hawaii to, like, Iowa.
No, Hawaii is its own culture. It's its own world. I mean, it does. Not that I'm not saying, like, oh, they're not Americans. Right, they are American, but it's like... That's not.
It feels more if you go.
It's not like you're playing a Yakuza set in New York or something.
Right.
It's like Hawaii is very much its own culture that is a Pacific Islander and Asia and Mid-Pacific and America all put together, and it's going to be. I think it made for a very interesting setting in Infinite Wealth, and I think it will be even more interesting here. Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever been to Hawaii, it doesn't feel like you're in mainland America when you're in Hawaii, like at all. It does feel like you're in another country.
Yeah. No, and no one will let you forget it either.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Haley.
And that's why it's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So anyway, don't forget, Thursday, there is an Xbox partner program. We'll see if Stalker 2 is in there. The other thing, too, is that, like, if they put up the stream yesterday, so people like me can get it all set up and scheduled so it shows up on Thursday morning for you guys, there's a description in there, and it mentions, like, 5 or 6 games. It doesn't mention Stalker 2. It could maybe do it as a surprise, but I don't feel like that is a game where, like, you'd be like, we're not going to tell them about this because they'll blow their doors off when they see it's in there.
I mean, if it's your only big heavy hitter and it's coming next month, I mean, I give pretty good odds.
I mean, I would just try to put it in anything.
That would be a reason I would have this event.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly not going to I'm not going to anchor it with Alan Wake, that's for sure.
Yep, that's true.
And Minority Games, that's how come we never see games set in the Philippines? I don't know. That's a very good question.
That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of countries we don't have games set in.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I would love to see some, kind of like what Korea has been doing. I'd love to see a Filipino developer like come out and be like, here's an awesome like, Sleeping Dog style game set in Manila.
That would be great.
That'd be cool. Yeah. I'd play that.
Why aren't there a lot of games set in South America? You could have some crazy games set in South America, man.
Well, especially because like there is a pretty robust younger development community in Colombia and Venezuela. There's, but a lot of them like just learn that and then try to come to America and become developers here.
Yeah, Brazil is gigantic.
Brazil has a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean there's a bunch of stuff.
Brazil's got a lot of games that just never leave Brazil. Like partly because there's nobody who wants to translate Portuguese stuff for some reason. Like, Portuguese stuff for some reason. People are more reluctant to touch it in a weird way.
Maybe they're afraid they're going to screw it up.
Not Portuguese.
Shouldn't be that hard.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just more people speak Spanish, but like I don't know. And there's another Brazil is also there's a big burgeoning board game development scene there. Like there's a bunch of really cool board games coming out in Brazil that we have so far not gotten here because no one's paying attention. Like no one's listening. Like a couple have trickled out, but like because of licenses they're attached to. But like they're like pay attention to Brazil. They got some shit going on.
I would like to visit there someday before I die. So anyway, there you go. That's the lowdown on what's happening on Thursday for the Xbox Partner Preview. Next up, a brand new Destiny game was announced the other day, although we did kind of know it was coming starting from a couple years ago. It is called Destiny Rising, and it is a Destiny game for mobile, for iOS and Android. It is being developed by NetEase, I believe, which, okay, sure. They make every mobile game, it feels like, at this point.
I can't wait to fill a bar with a Destiny logo over it.
On my phone.
Yeah.
But this game has been in development for quite a while. Bungie is sort of consulting on the game, so it's not like NetEase is doing it all on its own. I'll say this, I'm pretty impressed with this trailer. As far as this in-game footage is concerned, this looks about as good as the first Destiny. Not as good as Destiny 2, but pretty close to Destiny 1 for a mobile game.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, all right.
But, games like this generally don't do well on mobile. Like, first-person shooters on mobile are not really a thing other than Call of Duty Mobile. It's doing pretty well, and Warzone Mobile's doing pretty well, but most other first-person shooters on mobile don't do anything. So, it'll be interesting to see if the IP manages to get people more involved, or at least give it a try. It is free-to-play, or it is going to be free-to-play when it comes out. I think it's coming out in 2025, but there's going to be like an alpha before the end of the year or something if you want to sign up and give it a go, if you're a big Destiny fan. I've fallen off from Destiny so far at this point that, like, playing this game, I may be like a fish out of water. Like, I have no idea what's going on anymore. This is also set in an alternate timeline from the main Destiny game. It's called, like, set in, like, the Dark Ages or some crap. I don't even know what that means, honestly. And I'm somebody who's played probably 70 hours of Destiny between Destiny and Destiny 2, maybe more. And I still don't know what the hell they're talking about when they talk about the Dark Ages in the franchise. So, again, this is coming to iOS and Android. It's coming next year, but there will be like an early access period at the end of this year if you want to check it out. Any feelings on that at all, Matt?
Beyond apathy? No.
Yeah. What do you think it would take to reignite your interest in Destiny? Because both of us were kind of into it for a while.
I mean, this is more because it's mobile.
Yeah.
But nothing would really. I mean, I'm done with Destiny.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as they deleted, like, campaign content, no.
That's kind of a deal breaker.
No.
Yeah, I still don't understand that. There have been some bad decisions made with this franchise by Bungie. I feel like the owners of Bungie have allowed Bungie too much creative freedom across the years and haven't stepped in at the right points to say, hey, maybe we need to think differently about this and have a different approach. Cause
Bungie really feels like they have some tunnel vision on that franchise, and it feels, I mean, nothing against Destiny, but it just feels like you're throwing good money after bad at this point.
Like, I don't think we'll ever see a Destiny 3.
No, I would think that would be a bad choice.
I think what we just showed you, might be the last new Destiny game ever. Yeah, and I don't foresee it lasting all that long either, even though it's free to play. But we'll see. Here's one of the biggest surprises of the week for me, Matt. We learned this week that one of your favorite games, Detroit Become Human, has sold 10 million copies.
I mean, that'll happen when it's like $5 pretty regularly.
Yeah, I mean, it is always kind of hard to tell because this game's what now, 6 years old,
something like that.
Something like that. It is hard to tell once a game gets that old where the sales came from and how much.
This thing's been deep discounted many, many times.
Has it?
So, yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I would imagine. I'm sure I've seen it for $10 or under several times. So like, it's not like they sold 10 million copies at $70.
Yeah, yeah, like, definitely not. Doesn't it feel like, though, by hook or by crook, somehow every PlayStation exclusive gets at least close to like 10 million in sales?
Like, eventually, I mean, if even Days Gone can do that.
Because look, a lot of games end up being discounted.
Days Gone was really super cheap for a long time.
Right.
This is not Nintendo.
Yeah.
If something doesn't sell, you'll be able to get it cheap in about a year.
I mean, a lot of games end up getting discounted to $5 or $10, but they don't end up selling 10 million. So I feel like,
who can blame 10 million people for wanting to play this riveting
cleaning the bathroom
gameplay? Finally, the escape you've been looking for.
Was it ever free on PlayStation Plus?
Yeah, it was.
I don't think that they would count that though. As a sale,
that's not
right?
a sale.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think.
I would think they don't count it.
I would hope they don't count it. That would be weird.
But that's the thing. My point is that, like, you know, there are tons of games that get down to $5 or $10. They don't sell 10 million. To me, it shows that, like, PlayStation fans, an exclusive game comes out. Maybe they're not all that excited about it when it first comes out, but it feels like they always keep their eye on it, and then eventually, if it gets to a certain price point, they will then buy it. And I don't know that happens with a lot of other first-party games. Well, Nintendo never discounts
Snake says,
games.
according to Google, it's never been lower than 20, which is shocking to me. Because I wouldn't pay 5 for it.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully you didn't get that answer from Google's AI, because Google's AI is wrong all the freaking time.
Google's AI can hallucinate a bit. That's true. But also, like, that doesn't seem like something that would have misinformation about it out there already. So I guess probably
accurate. Yeah. I don't think this game deserved 10 million in sales. I'll just
no,
say
not
it.
at all.
I mean, I liked it more than you did, that's for sure. But I still don't think that, like, this is a game worthy of 10 million in sales.
This game is trash. It's not, even by the standards of Quantic Dream stuff. Yeah. It's like it's one of the most, like, thoughtless, like offensive isn't the right word, but it's like, how dare you think you have the nuance and writing skill to tackle this subject?
Yeah. Like, well, don't forget the domestic violence stuff.
Oh no, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the racism metaphors, all the fact that the fucking title screen throws Martin Luther King Jr. quotes at you. Yeah. It's like you didn't earn that shit.
Yeah, you stepped
get out of here.
There. Yeah. It's.
Stick to your stupid fucking, like, murder mystery shit that, like, ends with some guy yelling Sean all day.
I think this B-roll speaks for itself. Like, you had to complete a mini game to clean the bathroom, then you had to complete a mini game to open the window. Like
I certainly don't have a problem with story heavy, like, kind of dialogue
narrative-driven
stuff,
games,
like, like a Life is Strange kind of thing or whatever. But this is just like, you know, I remember when Heavy Rain first came out. It didn't even first come out. I was at my friend's house, who was a reviewer, and he had an early preview copy of it, like, on a debug, and it was a party, and you loaded up to show everybody, which you probably
shouldn't have
supposed
done.
to do.
Yeah,
but everyone was, like, completely incredulous. They're like, you gotta brush your teeth.
Yeah, you gotta
like,
open the refrigerator,
open the door, and and I was like, why? What is this? Why is this a thing? Why is this the whole game? And, like,
it's certainly different. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it is an evolution of the point and click adventure game in an evolutionary branch that I don't think anyone wanted or cared about. Like, it's like the dead end side of, like, some kind of it's like when you look over here and, like, it's like, oh, these are all the branches of mammals throughout the years, throughout the eons. What's that one thing of? Oh, that was, like, this one branch of, like, weird marsupials that just died off 65 million years. Like, yeah, that's the Quantic Dream design philosophy.
That's a good analogy. Hey, Shane A28, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. That's awesome. Vincent says apparently it's $10 right now on PS.
All right, so there's your Google AI.
I told you not to trust Google.
Vincent's probably right. The AI might only be looking at PC.
Yeah.
When maybe it has, because it's newer on PC, so it may not have dropped below 20 yet. But I swear I saw it for $10 or less on PlayStation.
Again, I told you guys, don't trust the AI on Google, man. Always look for the real search results
always
below
scroll
the
down.
AI.
It sucks, man, because, I mean, look, I used to joke back at G4, especially in the later days, if anyone figured out how much of my job was just done with, like, good Google parsing, I would have been fired like, in a day.
I mean, I had classes in college where literally the whole class was, how do you research using Google? And make sure that you're using good sources and you're sourcing them correctly and you're giving credit the way you're supposed to. A whole class in college just about that. But I was a journalism major, so
yeah, I don't think Google existed yet when I was in college.
Oh, really?
When did they become a thing?
I don't know. When I was in college, we were using Google. Absolutely.
Are you older than me?
Yeah, by like a couple years.
I don't remember Google when I was in college.
Yeah, it was there for sure. Yeah.
I don't remember it being any good.
Well, it was funny how, like, our teachers had to teach us how to use Google. Like, we could just type stuff in, but, like, back then it wasn't as user friendly, and there were, like, all these weird quirks to it that they would teach you in the class to how to use it better.
Now Farrell says that it's been $12 on Steam according to Steam.info.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so Google doesn't know what it is.
Yep. Don't listen to AI.
This is like nowadays. I used to be able to get the first result was what I was looking for almost any time, and now I'm like, I gotta go scroll pages.
Yeah.
pages and pages.
Way below the fold.
Get away from the AI shit, to get away from the advertising stuff, to get away from the sponsored stuff, to get away from the clickbait stuff.
Well, the first 8 results are paid results. Always on
dead
Google
internet
now.
theory, undefeated.
They make so much money off of that.
Oh, sure. But also because there's no websites anymore.
Yeah.
Like, who writes stuff and puts it on a website anymore?
Not many.
It's all brands and commercial stuff and businesses and stuff. Like, no one puts information online anymore.
Just as an FYI, when I used to work at Spike TV, I was the head of digital for Spike TV, so I ran all of Spike TV's websites, and we made sure that their full episodes were going up on the website, blah, blah, blah. And anytime we would debut a new show, we would go to Google and we'd say, hey, we want to pay money for first search results for something. So, for example, one of Spike TV's terrible shows, and they were all pretty much terrible, it was my job to put lipstick on the pig, was a show called Coal. It was a reality show about coal miners. And so we went to Google, and we're like, we want to pay for 5 days of anytime somebody puts in coal, our show pops up as the first result. Coal, that's the word. $250,000.
Wow.
And that was 10 years ago? How much is it now?
I don't. Who knows if you can even do that anymore?
That's how you wonder. You're like, how does Google have so much money? That's how Google has so much money. You make $250K for nothing, for just pushing a button.
ETH Demon says Google was 2000, so yes, not when I was in college.
Yeah. I mean, I was. Did Google launch in 2000?
Yeah.
Or I thought there was like a beta that was up
No,
before
I don't think
that.
So. I mean, Alta Vista and Yahoo existed before then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was Google. It was just teaching you how to use search engines.
Yahoo search was around when I was in college. It just sucked.
And it would teach you. They would also teach us how to use like the search engine to get into library. What's that system called? There's a name for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They would show you how, via the internet, to get into like the library databases and then use those resources to research.
Basically, like at the next gen telnetting at the time,
Yeah.
which no one knows
Yeah.
what that is.
I don't know if they still do it. They probably should. I mean, it's more valuable now than ever, really.
Yeah.
To make sure you understand how to use
search.
search.
I can't remember the name. There was an actual name for like that kind of interconnected library system where you went to.
It's called like Alva or something like that.
Yeah.
Someone in chat, LexisNexis. There it is. Case Money had it. And someone else brings up Ask Jeeves was earlier than Google.
Lycos, WebCrawler.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff.
I like WebCrawler because there was a spider.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know if it was Google. It was just a class about using search
engine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the significance of Google was that it was the first search engine that really worked
right.
properly.
It worked the way you thought
point.
it was supposed to work. Yeah. Okay, next up, we have a controversial story, and this definitely stirred up some of the people on SIFTD this week. There was a study completed recently that tried to look at the true impact of video game piracy on the industry. And it was basically a study that was done on de novo DRM, which is something that most people hate because it's like an anti-piracy measure in games for PC. They're not on console, are they, de novo?
No.
Yes,
I mean, people hate it because it affects performance.
Right, yeah. And there's other...
And it puts some hooks into your... I mean, it's a very intrusive DRM method.
Yeah, people hate it generally.
When they remove de novo from things, it tends to make the game run better.
It does, yeah.
It's real, especially on mid-range systems. It's really annoying.
Yeah, so there's already a lot of hate built up around de novo, and I think maybe that might have tainted the response to this story from some of our users on SIFTD. And understandably, like de novo, I think universally people hate it. But basically they looked at games that used de novo and games that didn't use de novo, and then went and looked and did cross sections of the data. Like the report, I'll just say this: the story was from, I have it up here on my phone, was up on Ars Technica, and it's hard to encapsulate what they did in a short discussion here on GameFace. I would recommend going and reading the article if you listen to our discussion and you're not happy with kind of how the discussion unfolds. But I will just say this, as someone who was a journalism major and reads a lot of stuff and tries to ingest it the way it's meant to be ingested, I was pretty convinced by this study.
But I think if you're just skimming the headlines, it can look like something that was, it looks like a tobacco study that was sponsored by Marlboro.
Right,
It's like, well, it turns out piracy is really bad, says anti-piracy method that no one likes.
I can understand that.
So, but it goes a lot deeper than that.
Every time I was reading it, and I came to a point where I was like, wait a minute, what about the next paragraph would have the what about in it? So after I read the article,
Ars Technica doesn't mess around.
It vets pretty well, for sure. And so I was pretty convinced that at least it was moderately accurate. And the figure that they came up with was if you, due to piracy, most games lose about 19% of revenue from piracy. Does that seem right to you?
That feels like it tracks with what like my developer friends have told me over the years. Like one of the rules of thumb, I don't know, this was years ago, like Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 era, like 360 stuff. But basically back then the assumption was that your PC version was going to sell 1/3 of what your console versions did. In large part, part because the market was smaller, and part because you'd lose about 1/3 of potential sales to piracy.
Yeah. And if you extrapolate that across all versions, that's how you get
everything,
down to the 19.
Expanded to today. Yeah, like 19-20% feels about right.
Yeah, I think so too. And the common rebuttal to this, it always is, well, just because someone pirates a game, it doesn't mean that they were going to buy it. And that's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
And this study, that is like almost the focus of the whole study, is making sure that they don't kind of step over that line.
Yeah, like, are these actual lost sales?
Right. Not just like, because the publishers, most people, you're right. Like, the publishers try to say, oh, this was downloaded 1 million times on the torrent site, so we lost 1 million sales. No, you didn't lose 1 million sales. You lost probably like 80,000 sales or something. And this study does a good job of not taking the bait on that and diving into the numbers and really figuring it out. So again, I feel pretty confident that that 19% figure is pretty accurate. And now the question becomes, if you're a publisher, is it worth it to put de novo in your game, knowing that it will turn off a large group of people, but might save you that 19% of sales? Do you use de novo or do you not use de novo? Because today, EA announced that Dragon Age the Veilguard will not use it. So what do you think is the better choice if you're a publisher?
I mean, I wouldn't use it.
Yeah,
it's not
it
worth
feels like the goodwill is...
It's not worth the PR headache.
It really feels like the goodwill that you generate by not using it is worth more than the 19%.
Yeah. And you know what? You need all the sales you can get on this Dragon Age thing.
Yeah.
And look, most of your sales are still, for something like that, are going to be still on console.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Like, it's still not the primary focus of something unless you're making a turn-based, or like a real-time strategy or a city builder. I would think. And it's like, because otherwise, like, an EA in particular with the Dragon Age, they need to make sure that the primary media story about Dragon Age is Dragon Age, not like it's using
some goofy
Denuvo,
whatever,
or it ruins your BIOS somehow, or
or just stutters or whatever. The performance is bad.
Some stray line of code changes the install of Astrobot, so Astrobot just says fuck all the time. Like, who knows what could go wrong? It's actually very unusual to see EA this aware of the situation.
Yeah.
I would say.
Dr. Neville, we're glad that you made it for the show live. Welcome to our chat. The Retro Modern Gamer says, I think Witcher 3 did not use it and went on to do gangbusters.
Yeah.
And Ethiemon says, to be frank, EA wants to run on Steam Deck, and they likely found it eats up too much performance budget.
That's
that could be
also
too.
True.
Although, I don't know if you saw this story on SIFTD this week also that we curated, which is that like the vast majority of new games do not work on Steam Deck. And it's just because the OG Steam Deck simply just isn't powerful enough to run the games anymore. And so I think it was an editorial.
It really is a console.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, and then I read an editorial where they're like, look, it's time for Steam Deck 2. Like, it's not powerful enough anymore.
Yep.
I can't play the new games on it.
I hope you're happy with that $800.
And, well, yeah, I mean, because the parts price will come down, so you can probably still keep it around.
But you still paid that much for this thing that's not worth anything anymore.
And that was, 3-4 years ago?
Not that long ago.
Yeah. Welcome to the console life, PC players.
God forbid you spend $700 on a PS5 Pro.
Yeah. And I'm actually surprised that there isn't more discussion about the de novo thing in our chat. Maybe you guys read the article and you're like, yeah, it actually makes sense. Although, based on the comments under the story at SIFTD.net, that was definitely
I would like
not the
to think
case.
that someone who bought a Steam Deck doesn't expect to play cutting-edge stuff on it. But
Vincent says that de novo is trying to do console stuff. He said he read a story that they're trying to do it on Switch. Jerry Boulet, thank you for Twitch Prime. Vincent says Steam Deck was 800. It's more like 600 on the top end. Yeah, it was. But his point is that, like, now to make a Steam Deck that will run games that are coming out right now, it's probably going to have to cost around $800.
Yeah, the top line Steam Deck would probably be closer to 1,000 at this point.
Link so good. Thanks, brother. Thank you for Twitch Prime. Silksnake says, have you seen ways devs feck over pirates with game-breaking butts and pirated copies? What do you mean? They're like intentionally borking the games?
Breaking bugs, I think he means. And it's, sometimes there are little things where, I think the most famous one was I think it was Arkham City. Maybe it was Arkham. It was one of the Arkham games where if you were using a pirated copy, it wouldn't let you hold the cape glide. You just kept opening and closing his arms, which made you couldn't glide anymore, so it made it unplayable.
All right.
So sometimes there's games that do that.
Fair play.
A pretty clever way to get around that.
Commander Fed says I have a Steam Deck and I don't play new games on it. Okay. I could get that, especially with Steam. It's like everyone's Steam libraries are so big, you're always going to have something to play.
Yeah, you've got plenty of backlog to use that for.
Yep, absolutely.
And if I'm playing a big AAA thing, I don't want to play it on a Steam Deck. I want to play it like big as life on my big 4K monitor with all the audio stuff I have. So, like Steam Deck seems like an auxiliary thing more than your main platform to me. But again, some people just like handheld stuff for some reason. Yeah,
my main takeaway from this story is that piracy hurts. I mean, that's the truth of it. Like, I know it's a lot of people want to say, oh, it doesn't hurt. There's these big corporations, blah, blah, blah. You say that, but, since COVID, think about how many layoffs we've had. Do you think maybe that extra 19% of revenue might have kept a couple people around? Maybe.
But it wasn't 19% of revenue. It was like 3% of revenue. Like, we just got done talking about how, like, you didn't lose that many sales.
No, they're saying that, after they've taken into account the other stuff we talked about, it's 19%. Yeah.
Like 19%
of revenue.
Lost revenue?
They've lost 19% of revenue on each game. And they also tracked it. And again, I encourage you to read this.
I mean, that's just cost of doing business. Like
in the games industry, is it, I guess?
Yeah. Like, why chase that? I mean, it's also cost of doing business in movie. Like, there's always going to be people that pirate the movies or decide to use those stupid handheld cam in the theater versions of things. And like
this stuff is getting more popular, though, because I was watching ESPN SportsCenter the other night, and it was some prominent NBA player on the sideline of a game, and on his tablet he had illegal streaming sports website that I'm not going to announce, and he's sitting there watching illegal sports streams on camera. Like, this stuff is starting to break through to like the mainstream. Like, my mom is a huge Steeler fan like me, and the town that she lives in, Carlisle, it's equidistant between like Baltimore, DC, Philly, and Pittsburgh. And probably 70% of football fans in that town are Steeler fans, and the other 30% is split between Ravens in Baltimore and the Eagles in Philly. But they still don't show every Steelers game. And so my mom will call me sometimes in a panic on Sunday afternoons and be like, where can I find an illegal stream for the Steelers game? My mom is in her 70s, and she knows what's going on. So it feels like a lot of stuff that used to be like, oh, just us do it. It feels like it's starting to break out into the mainstream a little bit.
Oh, well.
Yeah, which is great. I mean,
like, I don't care. I don't give a shit. Like, because the thing is, I go by the Apple mode of like what curtailed music piracy, what killed the Napster thing, making it super easy
and cheap
to just legally buy the music.
Yep.
You want to curb piracy? Make it easier for people to, and not using de novo and shit is one of those things you can do.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you're going to get a lot of people who would have otherwise said, as soon as you see it all the time, they say, oh, this game uses de novo, thousands of tweets and thousands of Steam discussion responses. It's like, well, no sale. Not going to buy it until they remove it. And they always remove it eventually once the once the initial release window is done.
Yeah.
But they've lost that sale that would have been, $60, $70. Now that person's paying $20, $30. So what do you value more? Like someone that would, how many people are you losing from that versus how many people, and not just
you're not going to stop
total.
it either.
I mean, how many people are you losing a full price sale from? Like, what's that percentage?
Yeah. Again,
that's probably impossible to calculate.
It probably is.
But
they do a pretty good job in that article.
Yeah. It's an impossible gap to close.
Yeah.
Like, people are always going to, my dad used to say, and I don't quote my dad all the time, but people will steal anything.
Oh, yeah, they will. I mean, I lived in Philadelphia. I learned that. Let me tell you. And they will steal anything in Philadelphia. Anything.
But it's like you're never going to stop that. You're never you're chasing an imaginary goal.
Yeah.
Like
stopping
piracy is insane.
Yeah.
Like you're out of your mind if you think that's a goal. I mean, and Nintendo does a pretty good job of it, but you're never going to crack down on all of it. And like people don't even understand the issue. Like, like people are making fun of Nintendo because apparently the Super Nintendo games in the Nintendo Museum are running on
an
Windows
emulator. Yeah,
and it's like oh, Nintendo, so does the Virtual Console. So like,
it's all an emulator.
Nintendo stuff run on emulators. The problem isn't with emulation. The problem is with like emulation they didn't sell you.
Right. Yeah.
That's the problem. Like that's a very big difference.
Yeah. Well, if you're interested in this topic and we didn't discuss it deep enough for you here on GameFace, go to just search for Piracy in the search bar, and you'll pull up the article from Ars Technica. And again, if you're into this, go read that article, because it really, I mean, I feel like they've done as good a job as possible of kind of figuring out what the numbers are there. But to Matt's point, I agree with you. Like, it's not worth trying to stop. 19%, it's not. The cost of doing business, sadly, for a digital business today. So,
like, at some point, you got to accept the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like, this is how much things make. You are theoretically losing this much to this, like, side thing. But oh well.
It's just like if you make Clorox and you lose X amount in the aisles to shoplifting. It's the same thing. You just write it off.
Or
that's
like,
the cost of doing
business. Or like things that get broken in shipping.
Right.
Like that's
just
just part of it.
Some of the things are going to break. Yep. So there you go. That's the latest on piracy and its cost to the industry. Next up, I've mentioned this before on GameFace, and I write it in blogs or in blurbs all the time when I'm curating on SIFTD. And that is that we've kind of reached the law. What is going further than diminishing returns, Matt? Is there a phrase for that where you go further than diminishing
regression?
Returns? Yeah, maybe that's it. I feel like we have reached a regression as far as games that we are remastering because...
we're skipping the Alarmo?
No, we'll come back to that, yeah. This week, it was announced that Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles is being remastered for all current platforms. Matt, what in the F is going on here?
Well, they're remastering one of the best Star Wars games of the era.
You think this is good?
I like this game a lot, actually. And let's not forget, beat 'em ups are kind of hot right now.
Yeah.
Like this, and I'm doubly interested in this because, as you see in that shot right there with Adigalia, this game is from before they codified the lightsaber shit.
Right.
Like, Adigalia has a red lightsaber and Plo Koon has a yellow, which were never in canon.
You think they'll change it?
No, they're showing it right here.
They're going to leave it?
That's too much effort. They're not going to do that. you know that.
This game was so awful, Matt.
It's a PS1 game. I mean, I have it on Dreamcast, but like it's a pretty decent beat 'em up.
It was on GBA as well.
Well, not this one.
Yeah, there was a version.
A version, whatever that
means.
means.
It looks so awful.
But this is something that's very notable. Well, one thing is I don't know why they're zooming in the way they are because you should like that's not where the camera is when you're playing the game. The camera's back there.
Yeah. It's kind of like almost like an isometric game.
Yeah, but like it's everyone's like, oh, the lore, the lore.
Just look at the fog when they walk out there.
Yeah, it's a fucking 20. It's a
it's
a quarter-century old game. Big deal. Way worse stuff gets put on PlayStation Classic. I guarantee you. At least they did some work on this
shot right
one.
there. The dinosaurs are made out of like 8 polygons. I mean, what I'm really surprised at is that they didn't do hardly anything to this. They're just like, we're gonna keep these.
I mean, what else? I mean, that's pretty much what they did with Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, dude, they're updating Bounty Hunter. They're putting out patches for that game.
That's crazy. Do any of the patches make it not suck?
And I don't think any patches are gonna make this not suck, Matt.
No, this game's good. It is. It's
I think
fun.
you may be putting your Star Wars goggles on for this one.
No, I'm very willing to admit when a Star Wars game is bad. Like,
you are.
Like Outlaws.
I thought this game was terrible when I played it back in the day.
No, I liked it.
Wow.
It's one of the only games of its era that really got blocking and right. I like beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Streets of Rage 2 or anything, but like this type of game is hot right now, so it makes a little bit of sense to bring that back. Maybe as a test bed to do another one that's like modern, like a modern like Jedi beat 'em up and like maybe set in the Clone Wars with like an art style like the Shredder's Revenge thing. That'd be pretty cool.
I bet they sell 10,000 of those.
I mean, I can't even imagine what some. I mean, how many people are buying like Episode 1 Racer or Bounty Hunter?
I just can't believe they would. Why even take the time to do this?
Because it's easy.
I guess
it's right there, and people have good memory. I mean, it's better to do. I mean, aren't they also doing the Episode 1 action game?
I don't know.
I saw that was on the list too. Not now, but like eventually down the road they're gonna. And that game is one of the worst things they ever made. Like that's barely. I remember playing that at the time. We could barely play it. Yeah. It doesn't work. It just didn't fucking work. Why?
I just don't know why. Why are they remastering games like this? Just let them go. Let them die.
No, let this one come. This is good. This game's good.
Okay. Oh, you know what? On your recommendation, I'll give it another go.
Yeah.
I will try it again to see if it's better than I remember it, but I remembered it being awful. So
I liked it.
I was shocked.
I finished it. I unlocked Darth Maul, did the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. And it's partly hard.
That's the other thing I remember about
it's partly hard because the jumping is fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Like, if you fall, like, you die. Like, that's a life gone. Like,
Yeah.
that's old school shit. Like, I mean, I'm not saying, like, everyone's going to suddenly discover a hidden gem. I'm saying I liked it. And of that era of Star Wars games, if I was going to bring one, if you're going to put a gun to my head and say remaster 5 of these, I would certainly put this on the list before I put Bounty Hunter or Episode 1 on it.
Well, that was an era where Star Wars games were pretty awful, other than on Nintendo platforms.
I mean, the obvious one to do around that time is fucking Rogue Leader. I don't know why we don't have any of the Factor 5 games getting this treatment.
I'm wondering if, like, there's something,
gotta be something
in their coding
that.
or something.
No, they've updated things. They had a working collection of all 3 of the Rogue games ready to go for Wii, and they just never released it.
Do you think it might be like the music's audio system that's causing the problem? Because that was a proprietary audio engine that they built.
That stuff has all been brought forward though. Like they had it done on the Wii. If it's done on the Wii, it could run on the Switch.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's a Nintendo thing. Maybe they have to. Maybe there's a rights thing between Nintendo and Factor 5 and Lucasfilm. Like who knows?
Imagine if they really did it right and like made it look like.
But like I mean, look, man, you load up Rogue Leader right now. It still looks pretty fucking good.
That's what I'm saying.
And that game's only 2 years after this one.
Yeah.
It was run on better hardware, obviously, on that GameCube. But like, I don't know why you. I mean, of all these, I mean, of that era, I would rescue this one, and I would rescue Episode 1 Racer, which they've already remastered several times. Mm-hmm. But like, why aren't you doing
Shadows of the Empire, Matt?
Shadows of the Empire is trash.
It is trash. It's really bad. I played it because it was like one of the only launch games of the N64.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was the Hoth level. That was all it was. It was the Hoth level. Everybody played the Hoth level over and over again, and then as soon as it jumped to the next, you just jump back to the Hoth level.
Well, I would just, when people come over to check out my N64, I'd show them Mario,
and then
I'd let them play the Hoth level.
Yeah.
And then I'd put in Pilot Wings,
Standard
and then they'd slowly walk away.
Yeah, then he'd get bored and leave. It's like okay, now I get my system back.
Yeah. We got some comments here. Silkshake says, us who grew up with the prequels are nostalgic for this shite now. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Zet Saber Juno says, start remastering every LJN NES game. The Retro Modern Gamer says, Nintendo held GoldenEye hostage for 20 plus years. That's true, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Pharaoh Doll says, could Disney's ownership be a factor? Maybe they'd have to negotiate something new with them. That's a good point.
No, I mean, Disney owns all of those games, so it's because they own Lucasfilm, so it's up to Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm decides what's done with these things.
I'm surprised Lucas wants us out there. It looks so bad.
It's fine. It's for Episode 1 kids though. Yeah. Those kids are all 30 now.
Yeah,
like they're all into it, and they'll love this. I loaded this up like 3 years ago for some of my friends who were in their 20s, and like they loved it. They were because they remembered it from the and they remember it from the PS1, and they played it. I had done the
when they were like 4.
Because I have it on the Dreamcast, so I put on, and they're like, "Oh my god, this looks better." I'm like, "Yeah," because the Dreamcast one was a little smoother. It was.
That's great.
It's I enjoyed it.
Does it feel like to you though that the remasters are starting to get a little ridiculous though?
I don't care.
No,
like this.
You don't feel like they're taking resources away, or they're not flooding the channels with crap that like makes the industry look bad.
No, of course not. Hundreds of games come out every year, and half of them are crap. Doesn't matter whether they're remasters or not.
Yeah, this is one of those games that like the average person looking at it thinks it looks like crap though. Like a lot of games that are crap, like we know they're crap. But like if my mom looks at it, she's like, "Oh, I don't know." But if she looks at that game, she's gonna be like, "Holy crap, that looks awful." Your mom's never gonna see.
Who gives a shit? It's gonna be buried in the fucking PlayStation interface anyway. You have to go looking for it on it. Just like Bounty Hunter, you couldn't find that thing unless you wanted to find it.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't matter. Like everyone's like, "Oh, remaster." I'm like, who gives a shit? No, I don't think anyone who's remastering Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles is being taken away from the next fucking Game of the Year masterpiece that was never going to get made. It's fine. Like hundreds and hundreds of games come out every year, and some can be remasters of old games, especially ones that you don't have a way to play any other way, which we don't with this game right now. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really with Bounty Hunter either, to be fair. I mean, I don't like that game, but why not?
I like it more than this one, though.
No, definitely not.
I do.
You haven't. Maybe you need to play this one again
Maybe
because at least this one is just a side-scrolling beat 'em up that like works fine.
Yeah.
Like Bounty Hunter is awful.
It had other issues. Yeah.
Bounty Hunter was other, but I always didn't like Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
I mean, I don't think anybody.
It's
really
not like
did.
I loaded up Bounty Hunter and was like, oh my god, I hate this now, but it used to be the best. No, Bounty Hunter always sucked.
Yeah.
This game was always like a fine.
Yeah. I mean, I asked the same question then. Like, why did they remaster this thing? Like. I don't know why they remade Bounty Hunter either.
Because the prequel kids have disposable income, sort of now, as much as anyone has disposable income.
Yeah.
No, the prequels are hot, and those kids are right about that right age to want to re-experience this stuff.
The nostalgia.
I mean, sorry, kids. Same. I mean, why did they make Clone Wars of all things? No one remembered that game. I remember that game, but that game's not very good.
Erebus Jones says, I want to remaster Galactic Battlegrounds. Yeah, I think people would prefer that for sure.
Well, that's a much more limited thing because that's only on PC.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe remaster.
Also, there are fan remakes of that in modern engines. Like that's the thing with some of the pieces. It's like Empire. I'd love to see a modern Empire at War, but you can just go download the mod that turns Empire at War into a giant campaign game that covers both trilogies.
Yeah,
like
the fans have filled in,
or converted into Battlestar Galactica, or converted into Babylon 5, or converted into Star Trek. I mean, the work people do on these things is incredible.
It really is.
It's like, do we need a TIE Fighter remaster? Because
they kind of did it already.
That fan group already remade the whole thing, and it looks as good as anything would have been made today.
Yeah,
it probably looks better than a remaster would look.
Yeah. So it takes a little longer, but whatever.
But so PC doesn't really have that problem. But console stuff, I would like to see more of that Star Wars stuff brought forward, especially the fucking Factor 5 games.
Agreed.
That's the thing I don't get. Is I obviously have no problem with these, let's call them lesser Star Wars games being remastered and brought forward. But it's like there's 4 obvious ones you guys just aren't fucking doing, and I'd really love to know why, because even Battle for Naboo is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, Factor 5's not around anymore to ask them what's going on.
No, but someone could do it. I mean, those guys got to be somewhere.
I mean,
somebody has their phone number. Fucking.
My guess is they'd be happy to get back together to make it. So, okay, we got to move on. Next up is Matt hinted at. Nintendo announced some new hardware this week, but it wasn't what you think. It is a clock, an animated clock called Nintendo Alarmo. How surprised were you at this, Matt?
I mean, I don't know if surprise is the word. It's more like, what? All right.
A lot of people don't realize.
Maybe it is called the Switch 2, because if Alarmo is the best thing they could come up with for this.
I think Nintendo thinks they can just add an O to the end of anything, and suddenly it's Nintendo. It's like
Alarmo, Labo.
Seriously. I mean, I really think that's
Switcho.
Something. Maybe the next Switch is Switcho. It's better than Ounce'o. I'll put it to you that way. A lot of people don't realize that sleep is a thing for Nintendo right now. It has an app called Pokemon Sleep that has generated hundreds of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. It's insane. Nintendo can make anything and it will sell. In fact, this alarm clock costs $100 and it is sold out already. You can't get it. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you, this holiday season, this thing is going to be gigantic. Nintendo is going to make a small fortune off of this. I liken it to Apple with AirPods and the Apple Watch. These splinter industries that they create underneath their main brands that end up generating billions and billions of dollars. Now, I don't think Labo did that well. That was kind
Labo clearly did not.
It was a flash in the pan, but that was Pachter's prophecy coming true. Many, many years ago, he said Nintendo could sell you fanboys cardboard and you would buy it. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, 8 years later, Nintendo was selling the fanboys
Well, this
cardboard.
Is even more impressive, I think, because it's who the fuck has an alarm clock in 2024? We have phones.
I know. Their hope, but it's selling out.
But it's sold out, yeah. You can't argue with it. Also, it watches you sleep. That's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Pokemon Go uses the sensor in your phone to test whether you're moving around. By the way, that doesn't work if you have a memory foam mattress.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right.
Because it can't feel you move.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
So it's you did great. I'm like, I didn't. You don't know what any of that is.
You don't know what I did.
You don't know what I did.
I mean, this is creepy right here. That IR camera that's watching you sleep.
Yeah, there's an element of just it's like Miyamoto checking on every like Santa Claus, just checking on every child to make sure they're all okay.
Or it's Art the Clown from Terrifier. He's making sure you're asleep before he sneaks in the window.
I mean, that would be a good sequel to Halloween 3. The Silver Shamrock Alarmo would be...
I mean, that actually sounds like something that they would put in Terrifier. He hacks all the Nintendo Alarmos, and he waits for you to fall asleep, and then he comes in through the window.
He comes out of the alarm clock.
Yeah, you're right, he could.
As long as we're doing Nightmare on Elm Street shit.
I mean, he hangs out in hell, so I guess he could do just about whatever he wants. But yeah, so you're seeing here that, there are songs from Nintendo's biggest games that will wake you up in the morning. I'm assuming you can choose which song you want to hear. I don't know if that's what I want to hear when I wake up. I feel like my brain is trained to only hear the alarm on my phone.
I don't know. I wonder if the alarm starts just playing the sound of Pikmin being thrown. I'm I'm like, oh, you're gonna fucking die, clock.
It's like my wife gets up before me every day. She has to be at work like earlier than I do, and I don't hear her alarm. Like my brain has just mixed it out. Like I only hear mine. So I do wonder if like I would even hear Alarmo if it went off.
I mean, again, like, if you make it annoying enough.
Well, the funny part about it, Daisy, that might do it.
I was like, oh,
it's me, Mario.
It's me. Let's go. I'm like, oh, we're gonna go, motherfucker. Like,
get your ass out of the bed, you lazy piece of shit.
Luigi, get up.
And it's funny that they made it look like an alarm clock from like 1965. Yeah.
Although apparently, if you look close enough, you can see that it's a square screen.
Oh, really?
In it, yeah.
But they just styled it circular.
It's got a circle, but the screen itself is actually the display screen is actually square.
$100. That's all it'll set you back.
Everyone's like saying about $100. I'm like, $100 feels about right for that amount of tech in that thing. Like
an
IR camera and like a LCD thing and all the.
You can see there's animations on them as well.
I don't know what it looks like in person if it looks that good. I mean, these are probably all simulated screens. But,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, if you're a Nintendo nut, I guess this is pretty good.
So no for your Christmas gift for this year, Matt?
I'm good.
You don't want me to get you Alarmo for Christmas?
I can't believe they couldn't come up with a better name than Alarmo.
Again, they just add an O to the end. It's like Nintendo, Alarmo, Labo, like everything they do.
But okay, so there's three things. There's two things. What else have they done?
Well, that's probably why they never released the motion sensors, because they couldn't figure out a name that they could add an O onto the end of. So they're like, well, we just can't release it then.
But I don't associate Nintendo stuff with adding an O.
I do.
Anything. Which what?
Those two things, obviously.
Okay, so the thing that was announced this week and Labo.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where my brain connected the dots immediately when I heard Alarmo. I'm like Labo and like Nintendo. Like they're. I mean,
I never thought Labo was because of Nintendo. I don't know why it was called Labo. Like, I
think I did. I thought that's why.
I guess.
Nintendo Labo. It's kind of like alliteration. Nintendo Alarmo. Nintendo Labo.
I don't
Mario, Pulso,
Amiibo. I don't think Mario is named Mario because of Nintendo. Amiibo. I don't know why Amiibo. That's a word that doesn't make any sense one way or the other.
I'm just saying, Nintendo puts the O on the end of shit for some reason. I don't know why, but they do. So anyway, I'm not buying one. I thought about maybe just asking for one for Christmas on my Amazon wish list when I thought maybe people weren't going to buy it. Because I saw it and I'm like, this is dumb. No one's going to buy it. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll get one and never open it.
How did you think that? I saw it and I said, this is dumb. Everyone's going to buy it.
I didn't think anyone would buy it.
I knew selling out instantly. No question. I knew that.
It did.
I knew that.
And once it was popular, I'm like, oh, I don't want it now. It's not going to be worth any money. And then Retro Modern Gamer reminds us that Apple puts an eye in front of things. It does, yeah.
But like, I don't know. I don't think that's
Miyamoto
doesn't feel like that. Yeah, that's just Japanese. Like,
that's a joke.
I don't think that's consistent.
He's joking,
right? But I don't think it's consistent enough to say that that's a Nintendo thing.
So if we get one more thing, will you be convinced then?
No, probably not.
You're just never going to be convinced.
I mean, the double I's seem to be between Wii and Wii U and Amiibo and Mii's. Like, I don't know where that came from. I guess.
Well, we have like 5 things now with O's on the end.
You have 3 things with O's on
4.
the end. What?
Amiibo,
Alarmo, and Labo.
And Nintendo.
Nintendo. I mean, that's not even where Nintendo. The O doesn't make it means it's part of another word. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's like if Sega started putting A's at the end of everything.
I just like how much.
I guess Yakuza does end with an A, but it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So anyway, $100. I'm gonna pass. Matt's gonna pass, and now I'm not gonna buy it for Matt for Christmas either. So, and it doesn't seem like any of you guys are buying it either. I don't see anyone in chat saying I got it. Greggles Wong says it's not an IR camera. I thought it was. I thought that's what they said in the documentation they sent me for Alarmo. Was it was an IR sensor? Maybe not. I thought I read it though.
Yeah, the crying baby from Yoshi's Island 2. There's your fucking alarm sound.
Timbo. Thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime.
Clearly a Nintendo
nice timing,
account.
Timbo. That's hilarious. And Greggles Wrong, first time chat. Welcome to GameFace, Greggles Wong. Hope you come back. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, it doesn't actually come out in time for Christmas.
Oh, and Alarmo doesn't?
No,
oh, okay.
January.
Disaster averted. I'm just kidding.
Maybe for your birthday.
Yep. So there you go. That's a Nintendo Alarmo. Its next insane product that will sell way more than it should.
It's just like one of those things where I'm like, if you just say Alarmo to someone, no one's going to know that's Nintendo. Like, that's the weird thing to me. It's like, I don't know. Alarmio. Mario. I mean, I don't know. Like,
it's gonna drive you crazy.
Nintendlarm.
That's way better.
Yeah, way better. Nintendlarm. Nintendlarmo. In Larmo.
Well, if you need any help, just call the Duck Consulting Agency because we got you covered. Next up, another Nintendo story. So this week, Nintendo put out the word that it was looking for basically beta testers for a brand new something that is coming to Nintendo Switch Online. The testing is going to happen from the 23rd of October to November 5th. They wanted 10,000 participants, and the sign-up period was supposed to last for like 2.5 weeks, and they filled all the spaces in 7 minutes. It's like, of course you did. Like, of course the Nintendo fans are going to grab onto that immediately. And then Nintendo put out a statement saying that if you're in this, you cannot share any of the information with the outside world. It's like,
good luck.
Hello? You really think that that's going to happen? Any ideas on what this might be?
No.
Pretty bizarre that Nintendo would do something like this publicly, which means that they need a lot of people, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering what it is. Like maybe they're testing a brand new way. Maybe they finally have voice chat inside Nintendo Switch Online instead of this weird app you have to use on your phone.
No, I don't think you need that many people for that.
Yeah.
I think it's probably some kind of mass interaction thing. It's probably some sort of like
Street Pass type dealy.
Not something. Street Pass. I'm thinking more like the Mi Plaza thing.
Yeah.
Like some sort of like what Wii U did.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like I sometimes forget about like all the cool stuff that was in the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS, all these little like apps that they made just for like fun and social interaction and stuff like that. All that stuff kind of went away with Switch, which is weird because Switch is way more popular than both of them. Like, I would love to have had Street Pass on my Switch. Like, imagine now, like, Street Pass, like, it used to be like, I know I'm going someplace where gamers are going to be, so I'm going to put my, my handheld in my bag and make sure I have Street Pass turned on. With the Switch, you literally could have worked the way it was supposed to, where you're just out in the world and you're collecting Street Passes because Switch is so popular.
Right, but that would require me to, like, leave the house.
Right.
With the Switch.
But kids do a lot. But they ditched all those things. Like
it's not really very portable. Like it's so big.
Yeah, the Switch Lite is pretty portable, but yeah, the base model and the OLED really aren't.
But there's also no, unless you're already carrying a bag of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Like who does that anymore? Who carries bags?
Like the advantage of the DS was it folded up and you stuck in your pocket, and the screen was protected, and you went to E3 and you got every puzzle piece in like 5 days.
Yeah,
and there you go.
In the for the previous 10 months, you got like one. Yeah. You completed one puzzle.
I mean, you sit in the breezeway for like a lunchtime, and you're like, "There's Reggie, there's Miyamoto. I got everybody."
Yeah, I got everybody. Like it was almost insane. Like going to E3 with Street Pass, like. You'd literally, like, you'd have to unload it, like, because you'd get to the maximum number. You have to go sit down, unload it, and then let more people come in.
You'd unload it, and then by the time you went back to the screen, they're like, here's 10 more.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding.
It was just constant. Like
I miss that stuff with Switch. I wish it was still there. But unfortunately, I got rid of it. Retro Modern Gamer says maybe they're testing one of those 99 games. That's possible. Silksnake says they're testing servers because the next Pokemon game is going to be online. Well, the new... Mario Party that's coming out here in the next week, that's all online, but I don't think they would upgrade for that. Vincent says, my 2 cents, better netcode for NSO ahead of Smash 64, or possibly crossplay between Switch 1 and Switch 2. The second part, I think, seems more likely, the crossplay between Switch 1 and Switch 2. I do think it probably has something to do with something they want to introduce with Switch 2. And it may also work on the old Switch or whatever, but I think it probably has something to do with something they're upgrading.
That's why I said something like the Mi Plaza thing, because it feels like you're going to have some sort of new OS gimmick.
Yeah.
And that could be it.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing they left behind from the Wii era that they never really brought forward. And you have to imagine that they want a little more of a community on that splash screen when you load up that, because that's the one thing that the Switch is missing from that kind of heyday is like there's no interaction, there's no
social stuff in
it. Yeah. And even then, like when I went back to, what did I do? I was loading something up to look at something on the Wii U. I don't remember what it was a few months ago. I don't remember what I needed to do. It was something like to see if I own something, or I think I was just checking if like I needed to buy something before the store shut down last year or something. I don't remember.
That makes sense.
But I remember loading it up, and you load up that, the big plaza thing, or the big like little groups of me's pops up. And it's like
it's
and I'm just like, oh yeah, and it's like.
It's a vibe.
It is. It's not like I used it for anything, but it was friendly. It was nice to see.
Yeah.
And, you'd always kind of like look at it and sort of see things pop up.
You
and
see one of your friends' me's walk by. You're like, oh, there's Matt. Like, yeah, I hear you. It did lose personality. Yeah. Get rid of that. Maybe that was the idea. I don't know, but it definitely lost some personality in the process. So.
It wouldn't surprise me if they were trying to recapture that. It could also be, better online play or cross-play, some kind of cloud play improvement maybe. Because the cloud stuff, it's only going to get so good.
It shouldn't be as essential with Switch 2 as it was for Switch, but
it might be if you want to expand the Nintendo's the Switch Online subscription stuff to like GameCube stuff or anything like that. You probably need to use cloud. I don't think you could emulate GameCube stuff very well on that hardware.
It's taken a lot of work to get Dolphin to work the way it does. That's for sure.
So it could be that. I don't know why you need mass groups of people for that, but I guess for cloud, it could.
Yeah, you want to stress test it, no matter what it is. My guess is, on the date that this starts, which is October 23rd, we will know everything.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes after it starts.
Vincent's Smash 64 theory is pretty good, too. Like I could see them wanting that to be in flawless working order when it happens.
4 players.
And the only real way to know that is to have like a mass group of people testing it.
We'll find out soon. These Nintendo fans are not going to sit on this news. I can guarantee it. That's for sure. And then next up, you're not going to be happy to hear this, Matt. Metaphor, which we talked about in last week's show, and has been getting like sky-high review scores, is the best-selling game from that studio ever. Its sales have crushed every other Persona game that it ever released. And so it appears that this shift of focus to this more traditional fantasy setting for a lot of people was more interesting to them than the whole high school thing from Persona.
I don't really agree with that. I think this tells us something different.
Okay.
And that is that I think the mass RPG, especially the mass Japanese RPG audience, like JRPG audience, they want turn-based.
Yeah.
I think the fact that this is doing so well in a year where Square released,
active combat games,
Final Fantasy 7, real-time, combo combat. Final Fantasy 16, real-time combo combat. Like, there are not that many, big budget. I would call this AAA as far as these
absolutely.
games go.
Yeah,
there are not that they don't make these anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, so
this kind of budget in a turn-based RPG,
and it might be some really good accidental synergy that this is a more traditional fantasy setting because it fits what people who maybe were disappointed by the real-time combat in the Final Fantasy games wanted.
This also has kind of that hybrid where
it does.
You hack and slash a little bit, then it goes to the turn-based battles.
Yeah, but it feels like you're playing an old school game.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And so sure, some of it getting it out of the schools and being a little more. I don't know if I call it more mature than Persona, but like you're not in a high school anymore.
I think maybe it appears to be more mature.
Maybe,
but it's not really.
It doesn't really look that much to me, but like I think some of it is that, but I think a lot of it is just like this is what people want from a JRPG, and Square doesn't really do that anymore.
And look, a lot of people like this studio's games, so it also, let's be honest, it also got the Persona crowd, because Persona fans are like, I love this studio.
You've got the Persona people, you've got maybe some people that don't care about like urban fantasy JRPG stuff, but like do like the more sweeping fantasy stuff. But I think largely, I think this is a big cry from the core audience saying like, hey, we are fine with turn-based. Like we want turn-based, story-driven, giant sprawling RPGs that are and like when you think about it, there aren't many things like that. Certainly not at this budget and this presentation level. Like, obviously you've got Eiyuden Chronicle, you've got things like you've got Octopath Traveler, things like that, but like that is not operating on this level. And if I were running a game studio, the lesson I would take from this is people want turn-based RPGs. Also, maybe you could have taken that lesson from Baldur's Gate fucking 3
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah,
you know?
seriously.
Like clearly that is not, or how well the Yakuza games sell.
Yeah.
The turn-based Yakuza games sell.
Yeah. The other thing too about
Square basically needs to get its head out of its ass.
Yeah.
On this stuff.
The other thing too about turn-based stuff is like it works in a lot of different situations on mobile, on handheld. Obviously, with the Steam Deck now, it's not handhelds aren't just for Nintendo fans anymore.
Yeah. I just think it's more evidence, and I don't think this is a new idea, but it's more evidence that like turn-based isn't primitive. It's not, and it being started as like this is the best we could do, but it became its own thing. It became its own language almost. Turn-based is just a tool like anything else, and there are games where it's appropriate to use it and games where it's not. And I think a lot of the mainline JRPGs have started to try to force real-time into them, probably on the back of Square, being perceived as an industry leader in that regard.
I mean, action RPG has become the best-selling genre in the industry.
Right, but not...
So a lot of people are chasing that tail.
Right, but not in the JRPG space.
No, you're right. No, you're right. Those games have not sold like Western action RPGs.
Horizon Zero Dawn
other than Elden Ring, stuff like that.
Sure, but that's very different from a Final Fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking about stuff like Tales from Arise or whatever that...
The whole Tales series.
Or the, what you call it, the thing...
Atelier.
The mana thing that Visions of Mana that nobody liked.
Yeah.
Just make good turn-based games again. Like, I think people. I mean, obviously the Tales games have always been real time.
Look how hyped people are for this Dragon Age 3 HD 2D remix thing. Like, that shows you there.
And maybe that's a good sign that Square has gone back and decided to revamp some of it and put some care into it because maybe they recognize.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just saying for Final Fantasy 17, maybe you might want to. I want to Final Fantasy 9 it a little bit and throw it back.
It might be too late for that already.
True.
I mean, that game's probably a long way.
Although I don't know, I don't think it's ever too late to make something turn-based,
or ever too late to make something successful.
Yeah,
that would not be.
That
otherwise.
won't be throwing hundreds of millions of dollars down the tubes. Yeah, that would be good too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is. I mean, obviously, it's good for what I can't remember the name of the
P Studio.
P Studio.
Yeah, very catchy. I know. That's the Persona Studio. P Studio. And then Atlas is obviously the publisher.
I mean, obviously, it's a triumph in terms of like just sort of the continual growth of that. I mean, every Persona is getting bigger and bigger. Persona 5 was bigger than the others ever were, and this is bigger than this.
Yeah.
And I bet Persona 6 will be bigger than this.
Probably because this will create a bunch of new fans now who are like, oh, their next game is Persona.
But I'm going to take this as the audience endorsing turn-based as their format of choice.
Fair.
And
I think you made the argument.
I hope they're listened to on that because I don't mind it.
We need a better mix.
Yeah. I think it's notable that you just had a blockbuster sales of a more traditional turn-based Japanese RPG here, and last year you had the biggest game of the year was a turn-based Western CRPG. Mm-hmm. Take note.
Writing's on the wall.
Yeah,
it's there. Yep.
Nobody wants to play Devil May Cry when they're playing this stuff. They want to play an RPG.
Yeah, it seems that way.
So.
Next up, we are about to get something that I think all of us thought we were going to get a really long time ago. And finally, Xbox Cloud Gaming is going to work with your old Xbox catalog. So all your old Xbox games, Xbox 360 games, Xbox One games, you're now going to be able to play those games via the cloud. And Matt, I will just say this week, I went and looked at Game Pass to see what was new. And one of the new games was a Katamari game, Reroll. And I was like, I don't really need to download this game. I don't care about latency all that much. I'll just play it on cloud. And I'll be honest, it was really hard to tell I was playing it on cloud. I feel like I'm kind of inching to the place where, like, there's a bulk of, like, first-party games that I would be okay playing on the cloud. Whereas a couple years ago, I'd have been like, hell no, I'm playing it off a disc or off a hard drive. I feel like I'm starting to come around a little bit on certain games and certain genres that I would be okay playing them on the cloud. And I'm wondering with this thing that's coming in November where you're going to be able to like basically stick your disc in and then play the game through the cloud, take the disc out and still have access to that cloud version. I wonder, do you think it's going to pop at all? You think people are going to be excited by it?
I don't even understand what it is.
So
like I can put an Xbox One original Xbox disc in the Xbox One, and it'll then give it to me forever on the cloud?
Yeah. So you can then take the disc out, and you could keep playing the game via the cloud without having to have
Are these only backwards compatible
Yes.
games. So
But there's going to be thousands. They haven't announced exactly how many or exactly what games, but they said over 1,000 games will be coming online like the first week of November. And this, to me, fulfills a promise that I think everybody thought was made to us with Xbox Series X, which was that we're going to be able to play our entire catalog, which I guess they kind of delivered on that anyway.
Yeah, you kind of already can.
Because you can put the disc in there and play it most games. So I guess they have kind of delivered on that already. But I do wonder if there's a very big audience of people who, like,
I don't know,
or would play on the cloud because they're casual, but they have an old Xbox library.
Long-standing Xbox library. I don't know.
It is a kind of a question of like, who is this for exactly?
Not for me.
Yeah.
I will never.
Yeah, I mean, I would never play any multiplayer games on the
I'll
cloud.
never play anything like this. I hate cloud gaming. It feels like shit. I always notice it. It's too laggy. I will never play it.
Yeah.
I'll never do it.
Like I said, I played Katamari. Like, it doesn't really affect games like that at all.
Like in this trailer, they're showing somebody playing Streets of Rage 4 on a cloud. No, you're dead.
I wouldn't do
in that game.
Yeah.
I'm just like, go away. Give me a fucking, like, I guess maybe Sea of Thieves were, but again, if you're up against people in an actual connection, forget it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how hardcore that game is in terms of PvP combat, but like I haven't played it in years.
Yeah, I mean, anything where latency matters, you'll never play on the cloud. I mean, people will, but
even something like, oh, you could play like Baldur's Gate 3, like you could, but I'm gonna notice that split second lag between when I press the thing and the thing reacts, and that's what bugs me.
I mean, I played Baldur's Gate 3 through Steam Link. Because it's a turn-based RPG, and I didn't care. Like, I
just hate the way it
Steam
feels.
Link might as well be cloud gaming.
Yeah,
it's like the same
more or less.
latency, basically.
But I just can't stand it.
Yeah.
I can't stand the lag between when I press something and when they respond, especially if I played it non-cloud and I know how that's supposed to respond.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it feels like shit.
No, I hear you. You can definitely feel it. Retro Modern Gamer says, what happens when your internet drops for a split second? What happens to your game progress? Does the game pick up where it left off, or does it just kill your game and its progress? It buffers, basically.
Yeah.
So you don't really lose anything. You won't even notice, honestly, that that's happened. Unless your internet obviously drops out completely, and then you'll have like 30 seconds of runway before the game crashes or whatever. So,
yeah. And they're pretty good with cloud backups of autosaves and things. And I've never lost any real progress.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. Mersh.
Just don't play anything you really care about making serious progress in while you're doing. I mean,
right.
That's the other thing is like, when would I ever do this?
Yeah.
Like, where am I going to be where I desperately want to play Hellblade on the go with a really robust internet connection and a tablet? Like, this is simply not a thing that happens in my life. You do not need to be playing video games every minute of every fucking
of your
day.
life. Yeah. Mersh says, I use cloud gaming a lot to play most of the indie games, and I barely have any issues.
It depends on the indie game. Like, if you're playing NeoCab, sure, you don't need any kind of react. But if you're trying to play Celeste, good luck.
Notzerk says, yeah, me too. I've had great experiences with cloud gaming. He's being extreme.
I am being extreme because I demand actual performance out of my games. I don't want them to feel like that. I
hate
it.
Part of it, too, is that, like, you don't like cloud gaming. So you want the message out there to be like, we are rejecting this. You don't want it to continue to take over the type of gaming that you enjoy. I completely understand.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're taking away the other games, but I'm never gonna fucking touch this. I think it's trash.
And Erebus Jones just said what I do as well. It's niche, but I use it to check something out before I commit to a big download. That's what I found myself doing too. Like, I'm like, oh, I can play this and see it. You know, if it's even something I might be interested in, and I'll say this. It doesn't help with the first impression playing it on
That's
cloud.
exactly what I was about to say. I'm like, I would never want my first impression of a game to be through cloud streaming.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably understand the concept behind it without having to download it.
I get it, yeah, for sure.
But otherwise.
And I certainly understand the desire to not use up hard drive space because obviously we're all running out of that on every platform we use.
Yep.
I had to delete some installs on my PC to get the Starfield DLC.
Wow.
And I've got terabytes and terabytes.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that.
I put a lot of stuff on there at once, though.
It fills up fast.
I might want to play that. And it's like, I played Far Cry 6 for most of June.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I haven't gone back to it since June.
Probably should delete it.
I should probably delete that. But I might want to go back and play a little bit more. And I don't want to re-download like 100 gigabytes. If I do that, it's like, yeah.
I think we all do it. And like in America, we don't have like caps on our data like they do in a lot of other countries. And so we can be really sloppy with it if we want to and just re-download it and delete it and blah, blah, blah. But it does take time to download it again.
Yeah,
like 100 gigs will take me 6 hours, maybe something like
It
that.
doesn't take me that long.
No,
It's like 100 gigs takes more like 2 hours for me, but like it's still a long time, and it's still like kind of I can't really do anything else while that's happening because it
clogs.
It
It
clogs
sucks
a little
the whole
bit.
pipe
Like
up.
certainly my phone notices on Wi-Fi. Like,
yeah, me too.
Because it prioritizes that, but it's like. I think with Baldur's Gate is a giant beast of an install, and I'm like, I'm never gonna go back and finish that again. I didn't really like that and all that, but I'm like, I might. I don't know. I might one day.
Well, 100, that's like 150 gigs or whatever. That's a big boy. You really got to think before you delete that one.
That and Cyberpunk are sort of like, you might just live here forever.
Yep, I hear you. So anyway, if you are into cloud gaming or you're open to the idea of cloud gaming and you have an old library, big stuff is happening in the first week of November, just to keep it in mind. We talked, was it last week or the week before, about how California had changed its law where if you buy something digitally, now the online retailer is forced to tell you that you're not actually buying the game, you're just buying the license to the game. And we mentioned that, California always leads on stuff like this, and eventually it'll be something that happens all over the United States. And sure enough...
And to be fair, this is already how Europe has operated forever.
Yep.
So.
And literally, like, the next week, Steam announces that it is changing the verbiage when it sells games to now...
This is really just California catching up to Europe.
Yeah, for sure. I also just noticed that the Steam B-roll that we have is from 2015.
Yes. Cutting edge WWE 2K15.
So I think this might be a piece of B-roll that I need to update for you all going forward, but this is the only Steam B-roll that we have right now, and it is almost 10 years old. So anyway, I think this is just going to happen everywhere, and I wouldn't be surprised if all digital retailers in the United States start doing this as well as, Good Old Games and some of the other ones that are selling
Good Old Games doesn't have to do it because you get the whole game.
That's a good point.
You can download that DRM free.
They can actually say that you're getting
you are actually game. Buying the actual game on...
Yeah,
as much as anyone could.
Yeah, I don't have a big GOG library. In fact, I get like tons of free GOG games with Amazon Prime, as you guys know, because you're all Prime subscribers because you subscribe to our channel here at SIFTD.
My GOG library is mostly stuff that you just can't get anywhere else.
Yeah,
it's all the.
I get the free games. I never go and redeem the number.
All the old, the old '90s stuff that like doesn't run otherwise properly, and like they've updated it to run properly in DOSBox, and all the King's Quests, all the Quest for Glories, all the Sierra stuff, all the LucasArts stuff, all Legends of Corandia, like my favorite point-and-click adventures, a lot of B-SoCal stuff, like things that just you don't get anywhere else. Even if you put, again, I have the disc copies of almost all those games from back in the day. You put them in a Windows machine now, and the Windows machine's gonna be like, we don't know what this is.
Yeah, what is this? Yeah.
What is this bullshit?
Yeah, they're like worthless.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Yay, physical copies of things.
Yeah. Especially on PC.
Yeah, well, where else? Oh, you'd think that would be where else, but it's like, no, you can't. I mean, I have a copy of Wrath of the Gods, and I'm just like, I got it because I loved it back in the day, and I don't know how I would ever play it now.
Right?
I'd have to go through all these weird, because it's not even like a Lucasfilm game where you can just load up Scum VM.
Yeah.
It's like this is one of those things where it's like, no, you got to do all this weird shit. There's only 5 people on the internet who remember the Wrath of the Gods game, and only 2 of them liked it. So it's like, it's not a huge support system for that.
Well, a couple years ago, I went to, and I still have the discs for Star Siege Tribes. And I tried to install it on my PC. I'm like, I just want to have this B-roll to have it in the archive in case I ever talk about it in a show or GameFace or whatever. And you can't play it off the discs. I had to go find some hacked server to play Tribes and download the client from some random site that probably installed some crappy shit on my PC. But like my discs are
usually they don't. I mean, I deal with stuff like that all the time, and usually that stuff is pretty clean.
Really?
It's fan made.
I'm very nervous about it.
That's the thing is like if you're digging through that stuff like with the Battle for Middle Earth stuff, like Battle for Middle Earth, you can get like a fan made launcher that handles all 3 of the games and disk images of all of them as long as you have the disk ISOs. Like you can play them just fine now, and otherwise they won't load properly from the normal disk. But like the fan community is, but because there are so many people in the fan community constantly messing with it, if anything malware pops up in it, they will call it out because someone will notice.
That makes me feel a little better. But
anyway,
I
imagine the Star Siege Tribe community is very similar. Like, like as long as you're going through actual legitimate fan sites and fan like portals, you're probably not going to run into anything malicious.
And truth be told, I haven't. So I did download it and play it and record it, and I haven't had any issues. So you're right. Like ultimately, there wasn't anything in there. But I have the discs for Tribes, and they're just worthless. You put it in the PC, and they're like, what the hell is this? Like, it ran on a Voodoo 2 card, so I can understand where modern PCs might be a little confused. So,
As
anyway.
I said, I've got my whole bin full of old, OS 7 Mac games, versions of games. If anybody needs that for a museum or something.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to start an Aspire Macport museum, I got you covered.
Vincent says part of that is that Windows doesn't let you load games with secure ROM anymore.
Yeah. And God help you if something uses GameSpy.
Oh,
Or Windows
which
on
is
Windows.
defunct.
Yeah,
Game,
or
GameSpy
games for
doesn't
Windows.
exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or games for Windows or any of that stuff. Like a lot of the fan-made patches for things are stripping that stuff out of them.
Yeah.
And that's how they work, because otherwise they don't work at all.
I interviewed for a job at GameSpy one time. They were in Anaheim. And I went in and did the interview, and everything was going great. And then I was about 45 minutes. I had been there for about 45 minutes, and a plane flew over their office that literally moved things on the countertops.
Yeah, they were right next to the Bob Hope Airport.
And they were like, that happens every 45 minutes or so. I was like, I mean, and I didn't take the job for other reasons as well, but like, I was like, dude, you guys work in this all day, every day?
I worked at a place, it was a marketing company. It was up in Burbank, and it was literally across the street from the Burbank airport.
Oh, jeez.
Every few minutes.
Rumble, yep. I could imagine sitting there trying to
Very,
write
very
and
hard to
think.
concentrate. Yeah. But I'll say that after like 2 weeks, didn't really notice it anymore.
Yeah. It's
You
funny
used to
how
it.
you just wipe it out of your memory. Like, you just don't hear it.
People can adapt to almost anything.
It's like traffic at my apartment. Like, I don't hear it anymore. But anybody who comes to visit is like, wow, you can hear the traffic here all the time. And I'm like, really? Because I don't hear it at all. My brain just literally erases it from the soundscape. It's really crazy.
I'm sure if he transported me back to my old apartment, I would be like, how can I ever do anything? It's
How
so
can I
loud.
sleep?
Because
Yeah.
the balcony door was right by a busy street.
That's
And it
how
was-
ours is. Yeah, right up against
wasn't
like
as busy-
a
not-
6-lane street.
Yeah, not as busy as yours, but it was
Yeah.
like constant.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh no.
Yep. So anyway, there you go. Steam is getting in line with California, and I would imagine that all other companies are as well, and
Yeah, this
all
will be
other
a
states
pretty-
are going to as well.
Pretty simple.
Just like
split.
everything, California starts it, and everybody else falls in line eventually. Some things take longer than others, but eventually they all fall in line. It's very interesting to watch. Even like states that you wouldn't imagine, eventually they also get there.
Californication.
Yep. Next up, I'm going to bring up a game that you probably didn't even know existed, but I'm going to mention it because it has a really cool feature. It's a game called A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead, and it is based on the popular film. What was the one with Sandra Bullock that was on Netflix? That was kind of the same concept.
Bird Box.
Yeah, where like you had to be quiet all the time or whatever.
With the blindfold, they couldn't see.
Yeah, you
anything.
couldn't see.
They
Yeah,
look
that's
at
what
it.
it was. You couldn't look at him or something. It's kind of a similar concept, but with a different sense, essentially. And this movie is all about like you can't make a sound because the monsters can hear you and they can find you if you make noise. So the whole concept is like you need to be quiet at all times. And my guess is that this is a stealth game where you have to be quiet at all times. And one of the cool things about it is you have like a little radio in the game, and what they've done is they have made the speaker on the controller active. So that if there's any noise in the room, if you say anything, if someone comes into the room and talks while you're playing, the monster will hear it and the monster will come and get you. Now, Matt, I know you hated last week that Silent Hill did like the radio sound effects in the controller. Are you more open to something like this where it's maybe it's a little more organic with the
I'll never
property?
play this game anyway. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
I'm just talking about the concept of it, though.
I guess. I mean, it seems kind of silly.
Yeah.
Like that's not this. Again, you're removing things from the immersion of the game to me. Like I am not the character. I am not the one making sound in the game. The character in the game is the one. Like if I knock
This
over
is a first-person game.
Sure, but I'm not there. If I knock over a table, yeah. If I sneeze in real life, the character doesn't sneeze. I sneeze, and I'm just like, well, that's stupid. Or like the cat runs over something, and that's like it's just gonna annoy me.
Yeah.
That's not fun. That's not interesting to me. Like it's it's a gimmick that sounds cool when you pitch it in a meeting, but in practice, it's just like this just takes me out of it.
Well, so a lot of times with stuff like this, it's cool the first couple times,
Right, and then you immediately turn it off, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll just mute the fucking mic, and that's the end of it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. But I do admire developers that are trying to do new stuff like this, because maybe one of them does come up with something that I like more than a couple times, and I stick with it a little bit more.
sure, I just don't like. All the controller nonsense just takes me out of things because I'm like I am not, footsteps don't go through my hands. Like I guess I don't mind it when it does like car stuff because like you feel that through your hands when you drive a car.
Well, also it ties into gameplay too, because like Forza Horizon, for
you want to
example,
feel
if your
like
tires are starting to break loose, you can feel it in the hands,
But like something like like Silent Hill or whatever, it's just like this just removes. You're adding a barrier between me and that's not how this is not how my brain works. Like it's like I'm not. Why are my hands the thing feeling the vibration? Because that wouldn't be how he feels it. So it's like
in Silent Hill, it's like you can hear it through the speakers and through the speaker on the controller. So it's kind of redundant on the controller.
And then like the worst sound quality on the speaker and the controller is sort of like I didn't mind it on Astrobot because Astrobot's just like a fun little delightful thing.
It's like a toy.
It's candy.
It feels like a toy. Yeah,
absolutely. But like if you're trying to like get me to like immerse myself, it's like whatever. Like I didn't mind it in things where like. Back in the day when we wore headsets for things and they like put like the radio communication in your ear, like that was cool. Through a shitty tinny speaker on a controller, no, it didn't.
I mean, it kind of worked for Silent Hill because it's lo-fi and like scratchy sounding,
sort of, but also like I can't hear it. Because my sound system's loud, and like now all of a sudden it's like I'm like turn it down so I can hear what they're fucking saying. It's stupid.
I had to turn it off because I was waking up my wife. That speaker's louder than you think, and like she's in the next.
That's the other way. Yeah, that can go the other way too. Sure.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it depends on but for me, I play with the sound way up, and like sometimes the speaker, I'm like, oh, it's a fucking controller talking to me? Is that important? Because I can't hear you.
And it would suck if it was important and you missed it.
Like I'm sorry, Yamaoka's got a brick in the dryer again, and I can't hear what's going on.
Well, one thing we do like to do here on GameFace is when we come across stuff like this, we like to put it in front of you so you guys can see what some of the developers are doing to try to push the boundaries, whether they're good or bad. I think it's good to know at least what's out there.
It's it's like on the level of like if I was playing like one of those like an Echo game and they made me hold my breath when I was underwater. It's like it's like okay, it's thematic, but it's like you're not really selling me on anything here.
Yeah.
I'm not a dolphin. Dolphins can hold their breath longer than me.
And then our final story for headlines for episode 407 is we're going to check in very briefly on the Activision Blizzard purchase because, Matt, I know it's hard to believe, but we just hit the 1-year mark for the Activision Blizzard acquisition at Xbox/Microsoft. And I just wanted to kind of take a minute to kind of reflect on the deal and try to figure out if it ultimately is worth it for Microsoft, if things have worked out the way that we had hoped. I mean, we are right on the cusp of 2 weeks from now getting Call of Duty Black Ops 6 day and date on Game Pass. That obviously is an Activision Blizzard game. Really, we haven't seen a lot on Game Pass or otherwise from this deal. Diablo 4 is on there, but I'll say this, and we'll talk about it in next week's episode. I didn't have enough time to get to it this week. Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. You do not get that for free on Game Pass. You can get the base game for free on Game Pass, but if you want to play that expansion, you have to pluck down money. I found that a little weird. Like, I feel like why have you drawn the line between the base game and DLC as far as what you're going to give up day one on Game Pass?
I can't remember what they've done with other stuff. I feel like you had to buy the DLC separate in everything, as I recall. Like DLC, like Forza, you get Forza Horizon, but you do not get any of the Lego thing or any of that through Game Pass. You have to buy all that separate.
Why is that, do you think, though?
I don't know. I think probably because the DLC attaches directly to your account.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It seems weird.
I feel it's probably some kind of SKU thing because there have been things when something became like an all-incorporated Game of the Year or like
version,
Ultimate
where
version,
it has all the
where
DLC
you
wrapped
do
in.
get the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's a maybe there's something about linking ownership rights of this to this other game you don't actually own. Maybe there's something with that. Like, I don't know.
Do you feel like
or maybe that's just a fucking scam, or maybe it's a scheme. Like
maybe
we'll give you we'll give you that for free, but you got to buy the whipped cream separate. You know?
Do you feel like as an Xbox customer who has their hardware and buys their games and subscribes to Game Pass, do you feel like your life has changed all that much from this acquisition?
No, but I mean it's only been a year. Like. Yeah. It's going to take a year and a half, 2 years to really fully integrate these two companies, and I don't think you can really say anything about it, at least until we see what happens with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like, until Call of Duty hits the fire, like, I don't think that's the only thing that really matters when it comes down to it.
Like, I understand, like, with Call of Duty, for example, like, you, on Game Pass, you're not going to want to give away all the cosmetics and, like...
Yeah, but they just never have done. The DLC's always been separate.
Yeah, well, it's always been free in Call of Duty. Like, very rarely do you have to pay for, like, a new map. Like, you may have to pay for, like, a character skin if you want to get some goofy pop culture character into the game. You generally pay for that stuff, but, like, the new maps and things like that, they may have, like, worst case scenario, they have, like, a 1-month exclusivity period for somebody who pays for them, and then eventually everyone gets the maps for free. But a lot of times, you get the maps for free day one. So it feels like with Call of Duty, they've only really kept, like, cosmetics behind the paywall. But so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Like, will they start selling map packs for people on Game Pass?
I would think not.
I think about all the money that was spent to acquire these two massive companies, and I think about, like, what advantages I have got from that purchase over the last 12 months, and I can't think of any. Like, Modern Warfare 3 is on Game Pass now, but it ended up on Game Pass months and months after it was released. I don't, like, yeah, all the old Bethesda games are on Game Pass now. I played all those when they came out. I know most people probably haven't played as many games as I have because I do it for a living, but I think most people have probably played half of Bethesda's big releases. Like, I'm struggling to see the value from this big investment a year later.
I don't think they care about a year later.
Yeah.
This is something, you buy something for this amount of money and something this big, you're looking 20 years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I get it from their perspective. I'm talking about the perspective of the consumer who's spending the $20 a month on Game Pass.
I mean, the answer to that is really, very literally, who gives a shit? Like, most people don't even know that merger happened. You know, but most people are never going to notice the difference here, except if you have Game Pass, and then only a minority of people are going to be playing Call of Duty on Game Pass because.
But the people know that the price of Game Pass increased twice in a year.
Yeah.
They do know that. And so they're wondering, they're like, where's the value? Like, why are they increasing the price?
That. I think they're just, I think, like,
well, you don't think that's maybe why the subscriptions are stagnant and they're stuck at like 30 million?
No.
Or at least part of it?
No. I think it's stagnant because you've hit a plateau. I mean, and I think most people would assume the price is rising because the price of everything is rising.
Twice in a year. I mean, people have Netflix to use as the barometer for that. Netflix raises its price once every, like, 5 years.
And Disney Plus went up twice in the last year.
Did it?
Yeah. Like, it's just happening.
But you know what? I've heard a lot of people saying they're canceling Disney Plus over the last 4 months.
Well, and a lot of, like, now you can buy cable-style bundles of Disney Plus and HBO Max and Peacock or whatever you think.
Right.
You know, there's more and more this is sort of, like, hitting where people are not, we can't sustain these models. Even Epic's admitting it at this point. We can't sustain these models at the amount of money we're dumping into them with no payoff, and so things are starting to shift. I think people just would generally, who aren't aware of, like, the nitty-gritty business dealings behind the scenes, would just assume that Game Pass is a victim of that too.
Do you think we should be getting DLC for free on Game Pass for games that are free on Game Pass?
I don't care.
No,
I don't think. I mean,
look, you're wealthy.
They never have.
But think about other people who aren't. Like, how do you think they feel?
I don't care. They never have given DLC as part of Game Pass, so why would they start? Like, that's how they make their money on it. It's like.
Well, I thought they made their money on Game Pass by charging us $20 a month.
You'd think, but I don't know what I don't know what the revenue stream is on that. But like the DLC stuff is separate from what they usually give you. I mean, that goes back to the old Forzas, and that goes back to the Gears of War expansion stuff. Like, it's they never gave you that for free.
I'm one of those people that I'm like, I don't care how it's always been. It can be better, and it should be better. Like, I never subscribed to the. It's always been that way.
It'd be great if you went to the grocery store and they gave you all the food for free too, but that's not going to happen.
I mean, that's not a fair comparison.
I mean, it's basically what Microsoft would compare it to, I'm sure.
No, they're already getting $20 a month from us. We're giving them money. We're paying. Like,
right, but like the DLC,
we're not getting anything free.
But the DLC, the first taste is free. That's what it is.
It's a drug dealer model.
Like, I mean, that really is. I mean, most people probably call it the razor blade model, but like I think drug deal is probably more accurate when it comes to multiplayer games. I don't see any. I mean, I don't think there's anything they could have done in the first year out to alter the Call of Duty like formula to incorporate some kind of extra razor blade idea for Game Pass subscribers. I think you might see that going down the road. Like next year, they probably would have the time to have implemented that. Be interesting to see if they change that then. But this year, I don't think you're going to see much of a difference. Erebus
Jones says, and he I think will tell you himself that he's a big Xbox fan. He says, I pay about £90 a year for Game Pass. Call of Duty, which I buy every year, is $70. Everything else this year has cost me $20. It's that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't played everything else from this year. You're playing what they give you on Game Pass. You don't. It's not like every game is on Game Pass. It's just not the way it is. Unfortunately.
Well, no, but he means everything else he would have bought cost him $20 instead of buying it, or £20. He's saying that Game Pass, he attributes 70% of his 70 pounds of his yearly subscription is just Call of Duty because he's not going to have to pay that much.
Yeah, because he would have bought it
anyway.
He would have bought it. Yeah.
And so everything else he plays all year on Game Pass, he considers to cost him 20 pounds.
Yeah,
which is a pretty good deal if you play like 2 things.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I hear him. Silkshank says if they keep upping the price, DLC would be nice to be included in Ultimate. Maybe they'll consider it eventually if they get to like critical mass. They get to like 50 million.
Maybe. I wonder if there's some kind of like technical issue with that in terms of connecting things. Because like,
possible.
Because you already end up with things where like you buy like there's people that bought DLC for Forza, but they never owned Forza because it was Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mean they did do a thing with I think it was the most recent one where you could get the base game for like $2 or something.
Yeah, I've seen those deals every once in a while.
Before they took took them off.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, for those of you who played it on Game Pass and you own everything except the actual game,
here you go,
basically for free.
Yeah,
which is cool. They don't really have to do that, but one could argue that they should, and then they do.
Cinetyke does bring up a good point. There is a huge difference between Game Pass for PC and Game Pass for console. Yeah. Game Pass for PC is like an amazing deal, and I really struggle to think that deal's going to be there much longer. Like, it's $11 instead of it's like half the price of console. Game
it almost
Pass.
feels like they forgot about it.
Yeah, it's like they made a mistake or something.
Excuse me, did you forget to gouge us over here?
Seriously though.
Maybe they're just afraid of PC gamers because they can just like, oh, well, I'll pirate it, I guess.
Yeah. But Cinetyke is right. Like, we should consider that when we talk about Game Pass because there is this other option that's half price that is actually a really good deal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll think about that going forward, Cinetyke, when we talk about this.
I don't think about it because I don't remember which version of game. I don't think I have the top version. I think I have what used to be the top version. And it's now like the mid
standard
version.
I think it's what they call it now.
Standard now,
I think
like
so.
Whatever that is. Yeah, I don't think I ever upgraded it to the new Ultimate, and I haven't noticed. So I guess it doesn't matter.
It's funny. I think I use now I have a new PC. I think I use PC Game Pass more than I use console Game Pass.
Oh, I definitely use PC Game Pass more.
Because
in fact, it's funny that like sometimes I forget. Like I bought Creatures of Ava. And didn't even think to check on Game Pass on Steam. I didn't even think to check Game Pass.
And there it was.
Yeah.
Like, I played Aura History Untold. We talked about it in last week's show. Like, because PC Game Pass has games that you can't get other places except for PC.
Yeah, that aren't on Xbox.
Whereas, like, Xbox Game Pass, I can get a lot of those games on PlayStation or Switch. And so it's really crazy that PC Game Pass is half price. I feel like there's more value there. And there aren't many games anymore that are on Xbox Game Pass that aren't on PC Game Pass. Almost all of them work on PC.
In fact, it's more the other opposite's really true.
I think you're right.
Like games like Ava that you can't play on Xbox.
Yeah. So what grade would you give Microsoft/Xbox over this acquisition at this point?
I don't know.
Over how it's managed the assets that it has.
I have no idea. I don't have a metric for that.
I feel like it's below my expectations, so I'm going to give it like a D+ or a C-, something like that.
I don't know what I'm judging.
I mean, I guess I would say that I'm not angry over how they've handled it. Like, although I think if I were only an Xbox and Game Pass player, I might be a little pissed off that they're still releasing it on other platforms. But I don't care because I'm platform agnostic. But other people might.
Duty?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to at least write out that contract with PlayStation.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. And then we'll see what happens after that, because it'll be interesting to see.
That's what I mean by 20 years down the line. You're thinking 10, 20 years. You're thinking about what happens after that contract runs out. You're thinking about what happens. Do you just pull it all back to your own platforms? Do you sign another contract with PlayStation
and put the screws to them
and make that another revenue stream
and up the rate?
Yeah,
and be like, hey, you want it? I mean, I thought all this stuff would have happened already. They'd be negotiating these deals. They would say, okay, we have a 5-year contract with Sony. After the 5-year contract, we sign another contract. And this is how it's going to work, but like none of that stuff has happened so far.
It's only been a year.
Yeah,
like it just that's almost the blink of an eye in terms of corporate merger time.
That's true. That's a good point. So anyway, there you go. Those are our headlines for GameFace episode 407. We're just about to talk about Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but before that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass.
and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. Ellis Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted.
Once again, people, always make sure that you use that URL, creamls.com/sifted. That's how they track that you guys are buying, or at least looking to buy, LS Cream based upon our sponsorship. So please make sure that you use that. And it's worth it anyway, because it really is probably the best liquor website that I've ever been to. Not that I surf a lot of them, but I have been to a few. And that one's really freaking awesome. It will help you find LS Cream no matter where you live. Either you can find it locally, or you can find someplace that'll ship it to you. Again, LS Cream, built by a sifter, run by gamers. Support your fellow gamers. Support your fellow sifters. Go to creamls.com/sifted. With that, it's time to get to our first review of GameFace 407. Is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Matt, this game has sold 3 million copies in 24 hours. I had to play this game on Xbox Series X because it was sold out for PlayStation 5 everywhere. No physical copies anywhere. They are sold out everywhere. This game is selling like gangbusters. It may end up being one of the top 2 or 3 best-selling games of 2024. Matt, how do you feel about Dragon Ball?
I hate it.
Do you hate it? I've never.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's just dumb to me. I was too old when I saw it. Because they didn't bring Dragon Ball to the States until the late 90s. So I saw it when I was in my early 20s. In the video game store I managed, because it was attached to a record store, and the guy who ran the record store, his grandkids loved Dragon Ball, and he couldn't stand it either, so he made them watch it in my store. So I watched all of Dragon Ball Z as part of my job, basically, with his grandkids sitting around watching. I'm like, and I was in there every day, and I wasn't on every day, so there were times when I'd be off a day or two, and I'd come back, and the fucking characters were still standing in the same fucking place.
This property to me is very much of what would be our kids' generation if we had kids. Like my nephews all love Dragon Ball.
Right. Well, I mean, sure. And well, also like if we were born anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like our friend Corrado, he loves Dragon Ball, but he's our age.
Mm-hmm.
But he grew up in Italy, and they had Dragon Ball when he watched Dragon Ball when he was 7 and 8. And I think that's the age you need to be to watch Dragon Ball to love it.
Yeah.
And I was 22, and I thought it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
Well, I will admit, playing this, there was many times where I was like, "What the f?"
Oh yeah, I mean, I played a lot of these. Like, I played several of the Dragon Ball games. I played the Fighter Z one, which I think was
Fighters.
I think it's Fighter Z.
It is, yeah, I think.
I played all those Naruto games when they got all anime cell shaded, and like they look great, but I don't know anything about that series, so I don't know any. I poke around in it. Like I loved the Fist of the North Star Muso game. But I know what Fist of the North Star is because I saw that when I was 8.
Right.
It depends. I like the stuff. I like the anime I watched when I was a kid, the shonen and like kind of the dumb serialized stuff. But I don't have the patience for anything new like that. And I saw this. I was too old when this came out. That's all it is. This is to kids. I also don't like Toriyama's art in general, so this doesn't do anything for me. Never did.
I'll say this. I had no idea what the hell was going on in this game 95% of the time. The stuff that they're saying, the people that they're talking about, the things that they're your dad killed my mom 5 million eon ago.
I mean, it is a very long saga. Like, there's a lot of continuity.
And then it turned out that she was a robot, and nobody knew it. I'm just like, what in the hell is going on
I mean, it's
here?
like trying to catch up on X-Men now. Like, it's just like you're dealing with 30 years of continuity, and half of it is stuff you've never heard of because you haven't seen this or watched this or know about this, and it's like, like the hardcore fans know all this, but that's who this game's for.
I mean, the game does have like an encyclopedia in it where you can go and you can look at all the characters, and they have a little blurb about each one, but it's very laggy. And like you click on a character and it takes like 3 seconds before the character shows up, and I'm like, no, like this isn't gonna get it done. I just want you guys to know I tried. I really tried to dig into the lore while I was playing this game to understand what was happening, and it was a fool's errand. It's
very hard to start from behind the starting line on Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
There's so many different series, and there's so many different storylines, so many different characters, and they all look the same because Toriyama has 3 faces he draws, and that's it.
I really struggled to figure out what the difference was. And then sometimes they look the same, and then they do a transformation, and their hair turns blonde.
Yeah, they go Super Saiyan.
It's a thing, I guess.
When they go Ultra Saiyan or whatever, and your hair turns green.
Yeah.
Like,
so the first thing I'm going to say is...
Like, that guy's from some movies that came out more recent. Like, there have been more recent continuations of things. And there's people that don't believe anything other than Z counts, or that the original doesn't count because it's too goofy, or the GT sucks, so you just ignore GT. Like, I am vaguely familiar with a number of things in it, but I couldn't tell you anything on any of this.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, this review comes from the perspective of someone who doesn't know a ton about Dragon Ball, but has played a metric ton of fighting games through the years, including Arena Fighters. So I just want you guys to kind of have that understanding of where this is coming from before I dive into it. The first thing I will say...
Silk Snake's Supersonic is very specifically a reference to Dragon Ball Z.
Really?
Sonic turning yellow as Supersonic is literally a reference to Goku going Super Saiyan.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Dragon Ball predates Sonic by... Dragon Ball's from the 80s.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Sonic's from the 80s, though, isn't he?
Sonic came out in 91.
91 was the first one?
And then he didn't go Supersonic until Sonic 2, which is 93.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, the first thing I'm going to say about this game is if you do like Dragon Ball, just go buy it. Literally, just go buy it. You don't need to listen to the rest of this review. If you love Dragon Ball, this is like a hit parade of Dragon Ball content. There are 12 different maps in the game. There are 180 playable characters. Now again, Matt,
when everybody's wearing the same pajamas, it's a little easier to make all that happen.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, a lot of times, like, it was like, here's a new character, and I'm like, that looks just like the other character.
Well, it reminds me of the Gundam games.
Yeah.
The Gundam versus games.
Right.
Where it's like, there's like 80... I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of Gundams.
Yeah, and they have like a different like paint job.
Yeah,
like,
they all have the same head. And if you care about Gundam, you know every single one of them, and you do know that that's very... Shining Gundam is not G Gundam, and G Gundam is not Universal Century Gundam, and that, but it's like... For everyone else, it's just like, it's just all the same white robot. Like, is the robot in different clothes? Like, it's like, I don't know.
Now, the one thing I will say is that I was actually kind of surprised at the lack of modes in this game. There are really, if you don't include multiplayer, couch or online, there are really just 2 single-player modes in this. There is one called Episode Battle, and that's where you basically choose from one of the 180 characters, although when you start, there's only like 6 unlocked, so over time you unlock more. But you choose a character, and you just start playing through a unique story with some of the laziest production values you've ever seen. So, in one sense, it's impressive that they have managed to include this many characters, and include separate stories for each one of these characters. But... on the other hand, the way they did it is about as cheaply as possible. So you get a lot of,
that's also very true to the anime.
Yeah.
So.
You get, like, animated stills, or you get, like, real-time cinematics where the characters just stand there and their mouth is animated and not much else is animated.
Yeah, again, very true to the anime.
Yeah.
Like, the afternoon shonen stuff was not made with a huge budget. And so you got a lot of that. You got a lot of standing around flapping their lips kind of thing.
Yep.
I'm impressed by how this is pretty good production value for what it is, I think. And I think if there's an element of like
until you start watching the B-roll.
Right, but I also think if you make it too good, it doesn't feel like Dragon Ball anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some nice touches in this. Like as the battle wears on, like the characters get worn down, they get like beat up and scuffed and stuff like that. You can see it already there on his character model. So there's some nice touches to it, and we'll get to the graphics here in a minute. But again, the primary single-player mode is the episode battle, and basically you just go from one battle to the next with these very flimsy story segments in between. And you saw earlier in the B-roll there, like like you go from one event to another on like a 2D Mario map-like screen, where it's like you just sort of go from one point to the next, and it's just basically going from one battle to the next. Like again,
Leonosaurus says, I'm around 60 hours into the game, and I have at least 2 full story campaigns to go, and I haven't even touched online or the tournaments.
Yeah, it's a big game.
You get your money's worth.
You do, but again, it is repetitive. Like they do.
I'm gonna just say that Dragon Ball fans don't mind repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said before I started talking about anything else, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, just go buy it.
If this was super true to everything, you'd have to hold down the square button to charge up for about 4 hours before you were allowed to actually punch anybody.
I mean, that's in here. The whole charging up thing is a big part of the gameplay mechanics.
Right, but does it make you like come back the next day
No.
and continue charging for another half hour and then come back the next?
No, but it's definitely a risk-reward mechanic where you're like, okay, I know it takes a while to charge up. Do I have time before the enemy closes the distance for me to charge up before I'm going to get hit? There's that part of it. And then the other big single-player mode is this thing called bonus battles. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. It's almost like a Super Mario Maker for Dragon Ball fighting games. You go in, and they give you all these different elements that you can pick from to put together your own bonus battle. So you choose, like, even end up, like, designing your own thumbnail for it. Like, that's how deep it goes. You choose, like, your stage, you choose the characters that are going to be involved, and you even choose, like, some of the dialogue that'll go back and forth, like, before the whole thing happens, and then you have to beat it. So just like with Super Mario Maker, anything that you create, you have to beat it yourself before you can then upload it to the online servers and everybody else can access it. And then it very much turns into like a Super Mario Maker where you can vote the stuff up and down, the view counts are there, you can sort all the bonus battles by most viewed, most liked, all that kind of stuff. So generally the good stuff does bubble up. And Matt, this game hasn't been out all that long. I can't believe you played it 60 hours. That's amazing, by the way. You haven't done anything else. This game, like, there is already just thousands and thousands of bonus battles that have been created. And some of them are really awesome. Like, better than stuff that I play in the campaign. Because people are like, they just go crazy. So, like, one of them that I played that was really cool was like, hey, we're going to give you this roster of 6 characters. And we're going to pit you against this one boss that's like Dark Souls level, like impossible. And you need to use all these characters to beat just this one enemy and try to get the most out of each character before they die and you have to move on to the next one. I thought that was very clever. And I kept playing it over and over as I learned each character and got a little bit better with each one. I got a little bit closer and closer to beating that crazy enemy. So that's the kind of stuff that's in there. You can create it yourself. There's stuff that Bandai Namco created that you can just play through. And there's just tons of stuff that other users created. Or you can create it yourself and upload it and see if people like it. So I thought that was pretty cool, but that's it. That's the single player those are the single player options in this game, those 2 modes. I found myself playing mostly through the episode battle because it does have some semblance of a story, even if I didn't know what the hell was going on. As far as the mechanics are concerned, the actual gameplay mechanics... Oh, actually, there's one other element I should bring up. There's this thing called wish grantings with dragons. So as you play through the game, you earn Dragon Balls. And you then can take them to this interface where you give them to these dragons. You have to have specific balls for the specific dragons or whatever. I think there's 3 or 4 different dragons. But you take Dragon Balls to them, and then they give you rewards, like buffs and things like that. A couple of the things that I got, like I got new outfits, and then like player level buffs. And each dragon has its own set of rewards as well. So... And there's like a whole juggling of like the Dragon Balls, because if you get a max amount, you can't get any more. So I recommend constantly going back and cashing in the Dragon Balls as soon as you have enough to cash in, because otherwise you're going to collect Dragon Balls that are just going to be lost into the ether. So that's like another like little mechanic thing that you do throughout the game. And then, you know, I would say like... I've played Dragon Ball fighting games. It feels like this one's pretty robust. But, Matt, when I start to compare it to like Smash Brothers... or Mortal Kombat, or even Street Fighter 6, then it starts to seem a little bit anemic to me. Because you think about Mortal Kombat's awesome campaign story mode. That's just incredible. And like the work and the production values that go into it are awesome. Like there's really nothing like that in this game. Like it really is just like, if you know Dragon Ball, you'll like the stories probably in the single player option. But if you don't, you're just lost like me, and you don't care at all. You're just like trying to get through them as fast as possible, because if you don't know what's going on, they are really dumb and juvenile. I mean, let's be honest. Like, they are really made, like you said, Matt, for like 7 and 8-year-old kids. So if you don't know what's going on, like the story and the stuff in this doesn't add a lot of value to the game. But again, there's a lot of content there as far as the arenas that you fight in and with the character options. Getting into the actual fighting itself, it is surprisingly deep. Like, when I first started playing this, I struggled a little bit to learn, like, the flow, like, what I should be doing when, so to speak. But after, I don't know, like, an hour or 2 of playing this, you start to figure it out. Like, you basically set the enemy up with a bunch of punches and kicks or whatever, and there is a pretty good defensive element to this. You'll see in some of the B-roll that there's these, like, almost stalemates where you're, like, constantly blocking and kind of, like, teleporting behind each other. And that happens a lot in this, but that's very important. Like learning how to teleport behind the enemy to get him behind him to start your combo. And then once you start your combos, they're very simple. Like a lot of them are just like keep mashing X or mash X and finish with the Y. And the Y is like your ability to throw the fireballs. The X is your melee basically. And then from there, like you get to a point where your character is powered up enough where you squeeze the right trigger and it brings up a menu of your special abilities basically, your special skills. And some of them are on the D-pad. I did find that a little awkward. Like, in the heat of a fighting game battle, to hold right trigger and then tap directions on the D-pad, I found that to be a little bit awkward. Generally, 2 of them are on the D-pad, and the other 2 are on, like, the Y and the X buttons. So I found that to be a little bit awkward, but that's basically the flow of the combat in this game. You start beating them up, you land a big combo or 2, then your special skills come online, you squeeze the trigger, select which skill you want. And then a lot of that is just learning the right time to use those skills when they're most advantageous, which ones work best at certain distances. Because as you can see in this, like, it's unlike any other fighting game, really. It is really unlike any other arena fighting game. Like, most arena fighting games, the arenas aren't this big.
No, I mean, this is actually pretty similar to some of the Naruto games and some of the other Dragon Ball games they've done.
Yeah.
It's on a bigger scale to some degree, but it's like that kind of pseudo action RPG they did a few years, like 10 years ago. The main thing is, like, if you want a good Dragon Ball fighting game, get Fighter Z, which is a Marvel versus
It's a competitive
tag
game. Yeah.
It's a tag fighter game. If you want a Dragon Ball simulator, get this.
Yeah.
This is basically like recreating everything you could ever think about or want from the TV show and the various movies and everything. And there's already people in the chat saying, like, this is too modern for me. Like, there's people that basically Dragon Ball is Dragon Ball Z and a couple of the movies from back then, and that's it. And this is all too much. This is like
deeper. So this is built off of the Tenkaichi, I think I pronounced that correctly, line, which is a deeper fighting engine typically.
Yeah, that's that RPG, kind of not RPG, but it was like a more adventure gamey thing they did. It's the last. I think that might be the last game I actually played on the floor of E3.
It feels like a lot of people are in that boat.
Yeah, because
they seem to be heralded as the best Dragon Ball fighters.
It was. They were touting it as that when we were in the booth. That's for sure. I mean, it felt like every other anime fight. It's like, okay, so it's kind of like a weird evolution of Power Stone, where everybody can fly. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of an arena fighter sort of thing. And those are never really all that. They're all a little loosey goosey, I would say. But again, you want Dragon Ball?
Here it is.
Here it is.
You
want a good fighter? Weird. Dragon Ball Fighter Z is a good fighting game.
Yeah.
Like this is really kind of it's a different thing.
One thing I did like about it though is that a lot of times it does give you kind of 2 ways to do the same thing. So you can block with RB on an Xbox controller or R1 on PlayStation. You can hold it, and if you time it when they attack you and you hit circle on PlayStation or B on an Xbox controller, you do like a counter. But you can also click the right stick to counter. Who in their right mind would ever assign anything in a fighting game to clicking down a stick?
It means you don't have to take your thumb off it.
I guess. I found it very awkward. But again,
generally in fighters, you're not going to have to do that because you don't need to worry about camera control.
Right.
But in this, you do.
Well, and that is the biggest problem with this game. And you'll start seeing it here a little bit later in this B-roll. The camera in this game cannot keep up. So it does its best. And actually, it's kind of impressive that it does keep up a lot of the time. But a lot of the time it doesn't. And it tries to do this transparency thing. When the camera gets stuck behind an object, it tries to make that object transparent so you can still see through it. But there are times where you do an attack, and so let's say you sent somebody through like a boulder or whatever. They go through the boulders fly, the smoke flies, and then the camera gets stuck behind them. And it tries to do the transparency of all those things, and you just can't see anything. And so you just go flying into the void, hoping that you land the punch when you get to the guy, and most of the times you don't. They counter you and they knock you back out. But there's a lot of times playing this game where the camera just gets stuck behind stuff, and you're just kind of playing blind, honestly. Yeah. I have lost some matches because of that.
Yeah, but again, if you are a Dragon Ball fan who's been playing Dragon Ball games your whole life, this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Like, already just looking at this, I'm like, yeah, this looks better than anything Tenkaichi.
Oh, yeah. I mean, also, I should mention, you can see in the upper third there, this is only next gen. It's PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. And usually,
just the speed of it is a whole different game here.
And usually Bandai Namco, they are the kings of holding on to last gen, especially with games like this that is based upon like their anime or manga properties that they work with. They almost always come out for everything because they just want to milk that audience for as much sales as they can. They were brave and went above and beyond and made this PS5 and Xbox Series and PC only, and it pays off, obviously. The game looks and runs like lightning. Like, it's really, really fast. There are some things that I can't tell whether they tried to stylize it to make it look like the cartoon or whether it's just poor development, where like there's like splashes in the water that look like they have like 3 frames of animation, and
that looks very much like the cartoon.
They try to do it like the cartoon. That's what I figured.
A lot of stuff in that cartoon, and any afternoon shonen series of the time would be animated on 3s, and you'd see that sort of chop. As long as it gets the motion across. I mean, that looks way better than anything like cartoon. Just the movement of the water there is like, they're already a little above and beyond at that point.
Well, the environments in this, they surprise me all the time because literally everything is destructible. So you get to some of the more like urban maps that you fight on, and you like fling somebody into like a building, and like the glass flies everywhere, and like a big chunk comes out of the building. Like, the destruction in this is pretty impressive and pretty granular. And that's like, you figure like, oh, I'm way up in the sky, and here's this like weird like Jetsons like walkway in the sky. That's not going to do anything. You throw somebody into it and like breaks it in half, and like stuff goes flying everywhere. So it's parts of it are really impressive, parts of it are not. But I think to Matt's point, yes, it is probably the best looking Dragon Ball game ever released. It definitely looks better than Fighters or Fighter Z or whatever. And that game is just on a 2D plane, which should easily look better than this. So. And a lot of it.
That. I mean, I think you could argue character animation one way or the other, but environments, sure. But Dragon Ball Fighter Z isn't trying to do environment stuff like this. But you could argue that the environment destruction is very integral to the look and feel of Dragon Ball in general. So like, not having that is a downside. But again, I would be very surprised if Fighter Z wasn't a better balanced fighter. But that's not what you're going. No one expects this to end up in Evo.
Yeah.
Like, this is just
it's just a fun brawler.
It's just a celebration of Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Now I'll say this too. So the game is kind of complicated to play. Like I said, it took me an hour or two to really get my head around the fighting system and what I needed to do and the sequences.
Some of that is because you don't know what these guys can do.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea.
Like, people who know these characters are going to expect them to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and they're going to look for that and find it.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Faster than we would.
Yep. But what I was getting at is that like this game has the most amazing assists I've ever seen. This feels like there's been a paradigm shift. It kind of started with, it feels like Street Fighter 6. Where they had that kind of casual option that people could use to play. This game, you can turn on the assists so the game basically plays itself. I mean, there are literally, there's a list of like 15 assists that you can turn on or off. And I left them all off because I'm reviewing the game or whatever, and I need to figure out the difficulty curve and stuff like that. This game is also very hard. Like, you get to some of those bonus battle things that the game that Bandai Namco made, I don't know how I'll ever beat them.
Well, you'd have to be over 9,000.
I guess. But, like... I was surprised. Like, this game, as you said, is mostly made for like younger, although it is teen rated, which is weird. But it is made for younger audiences.
I mean, any kind of full-on fisticuff stuff's gonna get a T rating just by the ESRB's violence standards. But nobody pays attention.
Yeah. So I was surprised at the difficulty of this game. Like, there was a couple points where I just got stuck and quit. But the cool thing about it is you can just go to another character. If you're playing like the main single player mode and you play like 3 or 4 matches and you get to a boss fight that you fought a bunch of times you can't beat, you just go back to the menu and just start playing with a different character. And like I said, when you start the game, there's 6 there and just more unlock as you play. So even if you do get stuck, and there are spots where there are definitely some sticking points in this, you can just easily move on and start playing another campaign, and then maybe you get to the point where you get stuck on that one too, you just go to another character and start doing the same thing. So there aren't really any real choke points in the game per se, even though it is a little bit difficult at times. And then just talking about the visuals, obviously you've been checking out the B-roll, easily the best looking Dragon Ball game ever. The maps are gigantic, almost too big at times. There's a lot of times where you're so far away from like the enemy that you're trying to fight that like part of the game's strategy is figuring out how to close the distance very quickly, and they give you the tools to do that, but you have to remember them. And a lot of times it's like holding a button and hitting another button. There's a lot of that in this game because you do a lot, but there just aren't simply enough buttons on a console controller to handle it all. So there's a lot of modifier buttons in this, unfortunately, and it does take a while to kind of get your head around it, but once you do, I think for most people you can figure it out within an hour or so. Characters look great, environments look great, they're crazy destructible. I don't like how they do the transparencies. The camera's a problem a lot of times, but again, to what you were saying, Matt, I think most people just are going to get this to just have fun, just beating up Dragon Ball characters. And the online stuff, also great. There's couch, local online stuff. But there's also a crazy online suite that you can play where you can sort by almost anything. There's a server list. You can join servers and see before you join, because some people will set up a server with 6 players and you go in there and it's just like the champ stays up, just like at the arcade, and everyone in the list just keeps taking turns fighting, trying to stay on the top, kind of like King of the Hill type stuff. It has enough malleability and flexibility to do any of that kind of stuff. So the online suite, pretty great. I didn't notice any lag problems. I do have a really good connection at home that may have masked some of the issues for maybe some of you guys who are playing on DSL or Wi-Fi or something like that, but I had no problems with lag or anything like that. I was really impressed with the online suite. So I don't know how you sum this up, honestly. Like, I'm not a Dragon Ball fan. I had fun playing it. Am I going to keep playing it? Probably not. Like, I've already spent, 7 hours with it, something like that maybe. And it does start to get repetitive, because once you do learn kind of the loop, it's like beat 'em up, dodge, get your combos in, do your XXXXX combo. Now your special skills are set up. Squeeze the trigger, start pulling off those special skills. Try to make sure you're maximizing them based upon the distance between you and the enemy. Because there's a lot of times where you use a special skill, it never lands because it just doesn't have the range to get to the enemy. So as you slowly start to figure that out, the game does kind of fall into a pattern over time. But oh, here's the other thing. This game is $70. Mm-hmm. It is.
I mean, it's a Bandai. They're always $70.
This is $70, so that's something to keep in mind as well.
Namco is not afraid to charge full price. We know that.
Yeah. But again, I think if you're a Dragon Ball fan, I don't think you'll regret buying this game at all. I think you'll get it, and you'll play it for the rest of the year and probably halfway into next year. And here's the other thing, too, is that Bandai Namco supports these games with DLC for literally 5 years. Mm-hmm. I'm not exaggerating. These Dragon Ball games get DLC for 5 years. Now, with 180 characters already in there, I do wonder what kind of DLC they'll have. New maps to fight on, I'm guessing, will be a big part of it.
There's always more.
Yeah. But the bottom line is, if you buy this, it's going to be supported for a really long time. I promise you that. Bandai Namco makes sure of that with all of its anime and manga properties. So,
even ones that sell way less than this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this game already sold 3 million in like a day. So it's a big hit already. Bandai Namco is going to support this till the cows come home. Yakov 226. How does this compare to Kakarot? I don't even remember Kakarot well enough to compare it, honestly.
I think that was the most recent one, maybe.
That's
that
like this. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that was at the last E3.
Yeah.
The last thing I played of Dragon Ball was a demo of that, whatever that game was at E3 2019.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know. I don't remember Kakarot well enough to compare the two. Unfortunately, I wish I could. Drifter J says, I like Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Story was bad, but you could create a character. Yeah. There's no character creation in this. This is all, you're just choosing from known Dragon Ball characters in this. So, I think that's it. That's really, it's a fighting game that has 2 pretty simple single-player modes, a pretty great multiplayer suite. And again, if you love Dragon Ball, I don't think you'll regret picking this up. Again, it's available for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. And it is, even at $70, I think if you're a Dragon Ball fan, you will not regret buying it. Okay. And with that, well, let me bring us back down here. And with that, it's time for a word from our sponsor, the Lands of Hyberian.
Welcome to the Lands of Hyberian, an old-school turn-based RPG with a point-and-click adventure vibe. It's under development by Sifter Hussein Stealthy Zaban. He's trying to finish his first ever video game, but he needs your help. The game currently includes around 4 hours of content, complete with 49 achievements, but his goal is to improve what he's already created and add another 2 hours before it's complete. Right now, as part of this special promotion, you can purchase this game for just $1. That goes towards things like trading cards, replacing AI art, voice acting, and the soundtrack. While it's certainly not required, Stealthy is hoping you'll provide as much feedback as possible to make this the first video game truly crafted by the Sifted community. There's work to be done, but Sifted Army, let's band together and try to make the best game possible. It's in Steam Early Access right now, and you can find a link to its product page in the description below, or just search for The Lands of Hyberian on Steam. Let's do this!
So, Stealthy, who is creating the Lands of Hyberian, wanted me to send out a special message today, a message of thank you to Sifter Dyson. Dyson has been going back and forth with him on the development of this. And a lot of you guys have. Like, a lot of you guys have reached out. Do you need help? Blah, blah, blah. Dyson has really dove in head first and really started helping Stealthy finish this game. And so he wanted to make sure that I called him out today on GameFace to say thank you to him publicly for all the work that he's doing. And all you guys can do this. You can all get involved and help Stealthy finish this game. Just go to Steam, search for the Lands of Hyberian. You can communicate there, or you can send Stealthy DMs on SIFTD. He is just Stealthy, spelled exactly how you think. Send him a DM and say, hey, I want to help you. It sounds like him and Dyson are starting to make some real progress on this thing. So again, if you want to get involved, you want to help develop your first game. Other thing you mentioned to me too is that like Dyson's probably going to be in the credits for the game because he's helped develop the game. If this is something that you're interested in, if you're interested in game development, this is a great way to figure out if you're really into it. Get involved with Stealthy and Dyson, and let's finish this game. Let's, us sifters, as a squad, drag this game across the finish line and finish it off for Stealthy. So go to Steam, search for Lands of Hyberian. It's spelled Hyberion. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about Starfield, Shattered Space. I have not played this, unfortunately. But
yeah, you have.
How I have. Yeah. I think what the verbiage around this was, before it was released, was this was a big shift in tone. That this was, you're going to play this, and it's not going to feel like you're playing Starfield. It's going to feel like almost like a survival horror game. It's supposed to be spooky, and it's coming out around Halloween.
I don't know what they're talking about.
I think that's what Bethesda was telling people, and that's where that messaging was coming from. But Matt, you have now played Shattered Space, and you do not agree. Is that correct?
It's more Starfield. That's it. It's just more Starfield. Like, I don't know what anyone, like, it's just more Starfield. Like, if you didn't tell me this was DLC, I would never know.
You'd have been like, oh, I just found this.
It's just another quest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it all takes place, I mean, you find, I looked up how, first off, it's very hard to tell if this is installed on PC. And not Xbox. Xbox, I think you just install it on the add-ons and you're done. For this, you got to go through like the Xbox app, and you have to go. It's not listed in the normal DLC section or the add-on section. You have to go to the separate Shattered Space store page and install it from there. And then when you're in the game, there's a option in the menu that says installed, and it lists all the things you have installed. But it's just like the pre-order DLC and stuff and the bonus stuff for the premium pass. It doesn't actually list Shattered Space in there.
Weird.
So to start Shattered Space, you have to be past the opening missions. Like, you have to basically have joined Constellation and all that, and you have to be level. It's recommended to be level 35. And then you jump.
Most people have made it there by now.
Yeah, I'm level 75,
yeah.
So I'm fine.
Yeah.
And you jump to a system that has no active quest related to it, and you will encounter the Oracle space station there with a distress call, and you board it. And that's
so is that what happens? The space station sends out a distress call, and you answer it?
Well, no. You get there, and there's a.
How do you know to get there, though?
You don't. You jump in, and it's right in front of you.
So wait, they just spawn it in front of you, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
You jump into a.
So you don't have to be a specific place.
No, I just said you spawn into any system that is not related to a quest that's active currently, and it will spawn in front of you.
Wow.
When you jump in, you'll be in front of the Oracle space station.
Okay. That's an interesting way to do it.
And yeah, I mean, it gets you there, I guess. One of the problems that I had with that was I wasn't spawning because I don't fucking travel in space anymore.
Oh.
I just fast travel.
Because why would you?
Like, there's no reason to jump in.
Yeah,
There's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up. And so there it is, and you go and you land on the thing, and that's the section that's all like you saw in the demo thing where they showed it, where it's all 0G and everything, all the lights are off, and there's like phantom things pop. The phantom thing. It's funny because the phantom things are like, I think they die in 3 hits to my main gun, and like there's a bunch of stuff where like they pop because they'll pop out of nowhere because they can teleport.
What are the phantoms though? Well, do they explain what they are?
That's
Is that the mystery of the
sort
whole
of the
DLC?
mystery of the DLC.
Okay.
Is what
we
these
won't
things
spoil
are.
it here, then.
You'll
see it in this
you
B-roll,
get into what happened after the space station section, but like the explanation is the big reveal. Not the big reveal. I mean, I know what it is because I haven't gotten there yet. I'm about halfway through the DLC, but I know what it is just from reading stuff. And it's just another, it's another like, oh, it's in space and it's so weird. It might be magic. Who gives it's between the worlds thing? It's like it's just whatever.
Who's the person that's following you around?
Who?
There's like a person floating around behind you with a gun. Again, I haven't played this at all.
Probably your companion.
But where does she come from, or where do they come from?
You six or so companions in the game, and you pick one to come with you, like every other thing in the entire game.
So it's not like a part of the plot that they give you a new companion or anything.
I think there are 2 new companions in there, but you can accidentally kill them instead of hiring them. But I haven't found them yet. I think there's 2 possible new companions. I don't know if
the AI for the companions in this game isn't great. Like they're awesome. It's getting right in the line of
I haven't
fire.
had a companion in this game in 100 hours.
As far as using
I
them,
dismiss because every time you go into stealth, they can be spotted.
Right.
So I'm just like, everybody go back to the fucking ship,
and I'll handle it.
I don't even like any of you anyway. I'm just gonna play this like Skyrim by myself. And that's been
Emperor
fine.
Dread says it's almost as if Todd Howard is the biggest fraud the industry has seen since Peter Molyneux. Wow. Big words, Emperor Dread.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's just this is not the Save Starfield DLC update No Man's Sky thing that maybe people would have wanted it to be.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of people were hoping this might be the thing that turned the corner.
Like these things pop up, and some of them attack you, and like they die instantly, and like every time they pop up, the game plays is like really dramatic, like da, 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 and like I've killed him, and like by the time like 4 notes are in, and like but the music sting keeps going. I'm like, yeah, we're over here now. Like it's over.
He's gone.
He died instantly. You're very dramatic. Yes. Ooh, very scary. Calm down, Hans Zimmer. Come on. Here we go. But like, yeah, so there's like a mystery to that, and you reactivate the gravity and the lights and turn it on, and when you reactivate everything, like you find like logs and like these ghosts are kind of reenacting things where you sort of piece together, okay, something went wrong on this experimental ship and they were trying to get back home, but it didn't work, and they're all turned into these monsters now. And you reactivate everything, and it says like, oh, the space station basically has a failsafe thing where if something goes horribly wrong, it warps itself back to the Valrunes. It's the Valrune. It's the weird snake worshipping lunatics that are kind of the bad guys.
The snake religion, yeah.
Yeah, sort of like they were around, but you never went to their home planet, and like there wasn't really anything related to them in the game.
Main
for some
plot,
reason,
yeah.
outside of that one companion that used to be one of them.
Right.
And so, but then like it warps you back there. And you fly down to the planet, which is actually a moon. They keep saying it's the home planet, but it's a moon. And a Valrune Kai, it's called. And you land there, and it's in front of the capital city, and everybody's like, "Who are you?" I'm just like, "I was in this space station, and it just warped back." They're like, well, that is what we said, programmed it to do. Why were you on it? It's like, because it was fucking broken, and there was all this. It's like, I mean, it was programmed to come back if everything went wrong, so I guess you would have. Yeah, okay. Well, you can help us, but you have to become one of us. And I'm like, I don't want to be one of you. You're a bunch of fucking lunatics who worship a giant snake. Yeah. And, like, that doesn't even exist. Yeah. And it's like, and they're like, well, you'll be back. And I'm like, oh, that's it. Like, you either join House Valrune or you don't get to play the DLC. So I went back. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll join your fucking snake cult. Like, whatever. Whatever, Thulsa Doom. I don't care. And so you go through a little ritual thing where you can, like, it's like you can either walk through it or you can like participate where you like, sacrifice a goat or like burn.
For real?
Burn one of your possessions to like free yourself. So I burned like this extra emergency battery I found on the ship because I didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like, there you go. I am free of the pound and a half this weighs because this fucking inventory system blows.
It really does. That's my biggest complaint with this game.
So you join the thing and they make you pick 2 statues, and depending which statues of different traits you pick, that determines what title you get as a House of Valrune. They call it a I don't remember what they're called. They're called like begins with a P or something. I think, I don't know. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So it doesn't give you any new abilities or anything. They just they call me Vindicator now because that's what my 2 statues added up to in the title mix thing. And then you are basically told like.
That's an odd nickname, the Vindicator.
Yeah. Well, it's because I mix strength and perseverance were my 2 statues. Like, oh, you are the Vindicator. Yeah. So if you do other things, if you can become the Revenant or the whatever. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, and the it doesn't give you a new class, or it's not like any kind of like expansion to that. It's just like the people in this area on this planet, because the whole DLC takes place on this planet. There's no interstellar stuff.
Wow.
It is a very pretty planet. It's got red lighting and red nebulas in the sky. Everything's kind of lit green and orange and like it looks different. Like I'll give it that. It's a new city with all the new stuff to look at in terms of a new city.
How big is it?
About the same size as like Aquila City.
Okay.
I would say it's about the size of the other cities.
Wow.
And then the rest of the planet, you go around and find temples and basically you get there and they basically when you come out, another ghost pops up and screams about wanting to contact the Great Serpent or whatever, and then everyone's like, oh, that was our leader, the leader of all of Valrune, and like he's been doing that, and like we can't communicate with him, and he's like, well, he said he wanted to do that, and like, you can hear him, and like you're the only one who can hear him. You're like, yeah, he said something about wanting to contact the Great Serpent. They're like, you are the chosen one. That's why they let you join the House of Valrune, because it's like, oh, you're the only one who can hear their leader in the ghost form. And I'm like, I don't mean to undermine like the sincerity of all this, but like anyone who has played this game for 5 minutes would know to lie to you about he said something about the Great Serpent.
Right.
I don't know how to break it to you. It's all you fuckers talk about. It's one of the most boring parts of the entire world of this game, and now I'm stuck with all of you idiots for the next 6 hours. And so you go and they basically say like, okay, so he went with like a bunch of his soldiers to the scaled temple, which to try to contact the Great Serpent and find out exactly what the fuck the Great Serpent wants them to do, because guess what? You're 3 generations into a fake-ass religion thing.
And you still don't know.
And, like Joseph Smith has been dead for 100 years and no one knows what they're supposed to be fucking doing. So there's like, oh, I don't know, we should ask the giant snake we made up if like what we should do. So they go, and something goes wrong and it tears a hole in reality, and that's where all the phantom stuff happens.
Okay.
So they want you to basically go figure out what happened, since you can hear the phantoms talking, so maybe you can communicate with them.
Right, yeah.
But first, you have to get the council on your side, and then for the council is made up of all the 3 houses that make up House of Valrune, so you have to go do little mini quest strings for each of the 3 houses before they'll come together and let you go deal with whatever's happening at the Scaled Temple, and then there's a big finale at the Scaled Temple, and that's the DLC. And there is a bunch of side quest stuff in the city. Some of that's actually more interesting than the main quest. There's like a weird duel between brothers where like you have to be like somebody's second and try to convince them not to kill each other. There's like some like rumor. There's like weird little things with like supply problems. You're just doing odd jobs around town, but a lot of that is more interesting than the main story of all these people just going on and on about like. And you can be kind of a dick about it, to be fair. Or it's like, you can be kind of it's like and like there's a courier side job where you meet some guy who's like. It was like, oh, the Great Serpent has brought you to me, and da-da-da. I'm like, yeah, I'm just here to bring you your fucking package, man.
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to hear any of the rigmarole.
He's like, oh, but the blessings of the Great Serpent are way more valuable than any credit could be, and it's like the Great Serpent would want you to pay me, asshole. Like that's an actual like option.
Really?
You can actually pick the option. The Great Serpent would want you to pay me, and that worked. Like he gave me the money after
Great.
that. So yeah, it's just sort of.
What about new gear and stuff like that?
There's some new gear, like there's new stuff, like there's these void shards that all the phantoms drop that are presumably going to be used. They're used for some crafting thing where you can make some new stuff. It's sort of elementally charged. All the phantoms drop these like weird pistols and Valrune like stuff that like one of the pistols sells for like $30,000 or something. It's 30,000 credits.
That's a lot.
Like a lot of their stuff is very valuable, even by the standards of someone who has like 3.5 million credits, which is where I am now. But to the point that I'll carry around a lot of them because I'm like, I'm gonna sell these suckers off. Like, that's a substantial amount of money now. It's like you're picking up like the 400, 300 from like the cred sticks.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like it does feel like I'm leveling. I leveled up pretty quick. I went from 75 to 76 like in like the first hour and a half, and so the quests are actually worth a fair amount of XP because it does scale with you. Like the level 35 is where they recommend, but the enemies, I'm level 75 and the enemies are level 72 and 73.
Okay.
They still go down in like 5 seconds, but it's like they're giving me decent XP. They're giving me decent loot. They're scaled properly.
The rewards are
accurate. So that's it's too bad. The whole game isn't like that.
Yeah.
Why do I have to play the DLC for that? But whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sort of the same thing. Like you would never know this wasn't part of the main. Like I don't see much difference between them. The one thing I will say.
What do you see? What differences do you see? If any.
Really? I mean the main difference is that I think they have updated the facial animation a bit.
That's huge.
You wouldn't.
Perfect timing.
You wouldn't think it was that huge
B-roll.
if you saw it, but like if you watched it, like this guy, you notice how his eyebrows are moving a little bit more.
And they're not moving identically.
They're not
to each
moving
other?
identically. The facial animation is a little more asymmetric, more like a human face.
Yeah.
There's one woman. The woman who hires you for the courier job is very she's very dramatic and kind of worn out about everything, and so she's very exasperated, and so she'll do things where she'll be like, I can't.
Is that her?
No. That's him. That's the guy who runs you into the council and sponsors you.
Gotcha.
But she's much later. I'm sure you don't. There's no footage of her from wherever you got this. It's like hours.
Yeah.
But she she'll do things. She'll close her eyes when she talks. It's like just amazing. But like that kind of exaggerated.
That's a huge
and
upgrade.
And people look off to the side when they're talking. And it's like, and I had to, when I loaded it up, I was in the middle of another quest chain. Then I'm like, well, I got to get out of. I can't just get up and leave in the middle of my infiltration of Ryujin. I gotta finish this part. Or I'll
Here's
never
a new
remember what I'm
city
doing.
too, people. If you want to check it out.
So I did get to see vanilla game facial animation versus this, and this does feel like it's taken.
I can just from the B-roll, I can see an improvement.
It feels a little more naturalistic.
Yeah.
So that's good. I wish they'd back that all into the main game, so the whole thing looks a little better.
Yeah.
And your companions don't
You
really
would think
look
that
any
they
better.
would.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine that's a gigantic job.
That's a lot of work.
You're re-rigging a bunch of stuff at that point.
Yeah. So maybe they don't actually.
I would not expect them to do that.
It's probably not worth the work, honestly.
Probably not. I mean, unless you're going to do a No Man's Sky level overhaul, which I think you could maybe argue they probably
They might
should
want
do.
to. Yeah.
But this is not the DLC that's going to make Starfield feel like a coherent re-expression of what the idea of this game is.
Yeah.
It's still piecemeal. You're still going into build, and it fucking boggles my mind. All the breaks and all the loading and all the jumps between doors into buildings and stuff. Whereas
all the loading,
and so much of it is unnecessary because
it does seem ridiculous.
There's a thing where that quest I talked about with the brothers that are in the duel, you have to go talk to the brothers and try to get them to convince them to apologize to each other. Mm-hmm. And so one of them's in the house that they both live in. And so you go up to the door and you hit the thing. You have to let it load into the house. And you go upstairs and he's standing out on the balcony. Maybe it was the bar. I don't remember. But you had to go in, load into the building, go upstairs, and he's standing out on the balcony, leaning on the balcony, and you talk to him about all this stuff. And then the other brother I just talked to was down across the plaza, and I just jumped off the balcony and landed in the street that I just had to load the build, but I just jumped off the balcony into this, and now I'm back in the city with no load time. Why is there a load time to go into the fucking bar? I don't
It's their engine.
get it.
It's their engine.
It's
I saw
so
some comments
weird.
from people from Bethesda this week where they're saying our engine is perfect for the games that we make, but it's really starting to get rickety at this point.
I don't think it's good for this game.
Yeah.
The stop and start and the compartmentalization of this prevents it from feeling like a seamless world and a seamless universe. And you need,
for this game in particular.
Say what you will about Outlaws, but the fact that you can get in that ship and fly, I know it's a load screen, but you fly unbroken up to the fucking space thing, jump to another, and land at another, that makes that feels coherent and immersive.
Yeah,
and,
even if they're faking it, it doesn't matter.
Even if it's fake, it feels like it belongs. And the fact that this constantly cuts to a shot of the ship landing, and sometimes it just cuts away. It doesn't even include the ship landing because it's just you want to skip that? Sure.
Why?
It doesn't feel like a real place.
Yeah.
It never feels like a real place. It feels like a set.
Yeah. How much is this if you pay for it?
I don't know. I got the premium version. It was already included.
Yeah, because I was able to just download it.
I'm sure the chat will know. I don't. Well, because they sent you the code for the premium version. I'm sure because you got the early access.
Cinetype says character faces and eyes still look kind of soulless to me. They're still not top shelf.
Yeah, they're not on the level, but they look better.
Oh yeah,
I noticed very, very often while playing this. I'm like,
Cinetype maybe didn't play the base game.
I played the base game for almost 200 hours.
Yeah, I know.
I noticed this very good. I sent you the screenshot of my friend who's played it 2,300 hours. I don't know. I assume he's building a lot of things.
What the hell is he doing?
Some people just use this game as a base building.
No, you're right. Yeah, just to fiddle around and build stuff with. Yeah. So.
And you remember, Vinny from
€30. Yes, with $30. That's what I thought it was.
Vinny. He's got 700 hours on it. Wow. Building. People like to build. I hate the building. I hate Bethesda's
You and I both
systems.
hate it. We both hate building in games.
I don't like building in games very much, but I really don't like Bethesda's interface for building things.
Thanks, Cinetype, for that
price.
Like it. Yeah. Well, there you go. That is that the first real major expansion?
Yeah. This is the.
They've had like little updates and
they
stuff.
had the buggy update like back like last month, and they had like a couple of big patches that like fixed a bunch of things or expanded up some things. But this is the first. This is the first thing you'd call like a DLC pack. Like
doesn't sound like it's worth $30 to me.
I would definitely not. This isn't worth 10.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a quest. I mean, it's like 6 hours of content. I'd say maybe a little more, but like depending on how thorough you are. But it doesn't feel any different from what's already in the game. I mean, I guess they're trying to go tonally for this like snake shit. It's not creepy or scary. I mean, I'm not the person to ask about scary, obviously, but like it's just more weird, mystical, pseudo-mystical, like space opera bullshit. Like, and I kept thinking while I'm like, this isn't interesting to me. Like I feel
like it's just part of a game that like I didn't 100% Starfield, so I feel like I could probably poke around in what I haven't finished yet and find stuff similar to that.
Oh, for sure.
That's still in the game that I haven't played yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes for a larger scope than some of the other quest chains because you do end up in that temple and there's a interdimensional stuff and thing. Yeah. But also like that is sort of. I was trying to think about why do I love Mass Effect so much, which is also space opera.
Yeah.
But I don't like this very much in terms of the setting and how the setting makes me feel and what I'm interested in terms of exploring that stuff. And also at the same time, I'm working my way through Dragon Age Inquisition because I'm trying to finish that as a refresher before Veilguard. Running out of time.
You are.
That fucking game just doesn't stop. Like, it's like, I was like, I'm like 60 hours in and we're still going.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think like why, I don't dislike Inquisition. I don't dislike Starfield. But I'm like, why does this not hook me the way Mass Effect does? Like Mass Effect, I like hung on almost every word about the world building, about the alien races and their societies and what they believed in this. And I'm like, it's not just that I don't like weird spiritual shit like this Great Serpent thing, because I think all the weird spiritual beliefs of the Asaris are fascinating. But like, what is the difference? And part of it was, to me, I think that there's a little too much fantasy in Starfield for me. It's a little too magical.
Yeah.
It's like
there is supernatural.
There's a lot of weird supernatural stuff, and it's stuff I just don't believe in. And everything in Mass Effect, and this is Inquisition, you inevitably get into weird god stuff and religions conflicting, and that is boring to me because you're all wrong as far as I'm concerned. And same with the Great Serpent thing. I'm just like, can I just go over here and see what's in your stupid ass thing where you clearly did some weird science bullshit that you think is supernatural because you all believe a giant snake wants you to do some specific stuff that it won't tell you what it wants you to do? Like, how fucking stupid can you... Like, all you people are fucking lunatics. Like, I don't want to spend any time around any of you because you just won't shut up about the giant snake.
I think everybody in Starfield's like that.
Yeah, they are.
They are. Like, you literally... I feel like you just described the game
the
in like a
Constellation
sentence.
people won't shut up about Constellation.
Yeah, they're all weirdos.
The people who live in the far-flung star colony place that everyone... Like, so you live here on another planet, but you all dress like cowboys and no one will pave the road. This has been here for 200 years, and you have not paved the main road.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
There's stuff like that in that game for sure.
Like, and I realize that there's a space opera thing. It's like Star Wars. It's like, there's a lot of unpaved roads and Outlaws.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is that. Star Wars is
it
like
is
this,
like the retcon, like
it's
Americana.
It's this mix of things. There's cowboys and gunslingers and magic wizards and like, but like Starfield is trying to be this kind of NASA
punk,
and like this. It's all about explore. But I don't feel like I'm exploring anything that's believable. I don't feel like I'm going to go out far enough into space as an explorer and find magic ghosts.
I really hope that
from
if we
between the
get
universes
that far into the lifespan of humanity, that is not how we are.
Yeah, that would prefer that.
Would be awful if that's what we ended up
like,
as after
that's
like another
that's
thousands
kind of what I'm
years.
getting at is like Mass Effect. First off, Mass Effect, like it hand waves the Mass Effect dark matter thing is pretty weird. It's basically magic, but it doesn't make it out to be magic.
Yeah,
it's the Star Trek thing. It's science we don't understand yet.
Yeah,
and even the way the Asari work psychically are sort of that. It's like, this is just the way we are. Not everybody can do this. This is just, we have neurons that can interface with things like that. That's just how it works. So like you turn it into more of a Star Trek, like any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But Inquisition obviously does have magic, and like I wish in Inquisition I could just be a little more forceful about not believing any of the Chantry bullshit. Right. But you can't, because everybody takes the Chantry dead serious. And like it's probably real, right? Because because like it's like, oh, Andraste probably did exist in that universe. Like that, like you can't really deny that there are gods and monsters and demons and angels in that world. So it's like, but Mass Effect doesn't try to sell you on that, whereas Starfield does.
Yeah.
And I don't think that works. Because in the end, I think Mass Effect, in terms of being a galactic community and being sort of this melding of cultures and being this sort of idea of all these things we haven't discovered yet, and none of its magic are really beyond our ken. It's just that we don't understand it yet, and that yet is very important. Starfield lacks that aspirational quality for me.
No, I agree.
Like there is no sense of that. There is just
wonder.
This, the sense of wonder is more like, look at all the weird magic shit. That's not what wonder in space is.
No, for me, wonder is like the wonder of exploration.
Exploration.
The wonder
finding
of the
things,
unknown.
Expand, and then not just exploring, like, look at this weird supernatural thing we had. No, look at this weird science thing we found. Look at what we discovered on this planet that we've never seen anywhere before. Not because it's magic, but because this microorganism or this whatever creature or this particular physics phenomenon has never been observed before. That's exciting to me. That's what Starfield should have been. Yeah. And they seem to be leaning more and more into this magic supernatural idea of things, and it doesn't appeal to me at all. It is Destiny. Yes, Destiny is a very good comparison.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that. If you're gonna go that nitty gritty on the NASA punk thing and how realistic some of these things look, and how like
then stick to it.
Stick to it. Yeah.
Stick to your guns. Yeah.
You shouldn't go far enough out in the universe and suddenly find fucking He-Man. Yeah. Like it shouldn't turn into Eternia, which is what the planet in this reminds me of. It looks like Eternia to me. Yeah. Right. And I like I said, so that's what I settled on is Mass Effect has a weird aspirational quality to it.
Yeah.
Not just in the fact that we could be part of this galactic community, not just in the fact that we can master all these things and figure out some of these things that we would consider magic today, but that we can make a difference even when put up against what are such advanced machines from another outside of our galaxy. You know, the Reapers are basically elder gods, right? Except they are not. They are machines, and we can find a way around them.
Yeah, we can
one
beat
way
them.
Or the other.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I think people reacted so badly to the ending of Mass Effect was because bringing in basically a magic star child to sort of plaster over the things we couldn't figure out how to give an ending to is a very unsatisfying way to do that for a series that otherwise has been a very Star Trek kind of journey.
Okay. That's an interesting and great perspective on both of those franchises, for sure.
At any rate...
Bottom line, we say don't buy this expansion.
I would, if you don't already have the season pass on this, I would avoid this until it's cheaper. I'm not saying I'm counting Starfield out. Like, I like Starfield. I played it 200 hours. I don't play anything I don't like 200 hours.
Yeah.
Except maybe Kingdoms of Amalur. I don't know. I don't know why I played that as much as I did. But I do believe that maybe there's a DLC or a big thing coming, a big patch or some kind of overhaul that could come down the road. Maybe even if it's just Starfield remastered. Maybe it's years and years away. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel that if No Man's Sky can I'm going to turn into Rocky 4 here. If Starfield can change and No Man's Sky can change, everybody can change. You know, I just think like there's a great game in there in Star. I think I like Starfield. It's pretty good. But I think there's a great game in there.
It's
somewhere.
pretty good though. That's the thing.
It is pretty good. Yes, that's as far as I'll go. But I think there's a great game in there if they can find it, if they can bridge those gaps, if they can make it feel less compartmentalized, and maybe they can't. I
don't think they're going to give up.
I would think Bethesda wouldn't give up.
I don't think they will.
I don't think. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I hope they do. I hope they get there.
Yeah.
I hope they figure it out. I hope they pull a Hello Games with this in some form, because there is a great game in Starfield somewhere. It's just not. You just haven't found it yet.
All right. There you go. That is Matt's review of Starfield Shattered Space, and he recommends to not buy it. And now it's time for our New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week. What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right, I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are like 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, by keeping your kicks looking fresh. For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off. So one, make sure you use that URL because you get 15% off, not 10% off. That's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for, again, 15% off. The other thing is, I discovered this week that the cleaning stuff from New York Sneaker Society works on everything. So I had this old wallet that, I mean, it's not that old. It's probably like 8 or 10 years old, but I've had it in my jeans or in my pocket for forever. And like the edges of it had just been like coated in like blue jean color, and like it just had been beaten up. I used the New York Sneaker Society leather cleaning stuff, and that thing looks brand new again. So that stuff works on all leather, not just shoes. So if you are looking, maybe you have an old leather jacket or some other leather item that you're like, oh, it's all beat up and ugly and I don't really wear it or use it anymore, use New York Sneaker Society stuff on it and it will make it look brand new. I promise you. Go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted. And one thing we like to do with this sponsorship is we try to find a sneaker of the week, a smaller game that was resonating with you guys. And this week it was easy again. There was one game that was clear, far and away, far more popular than any other smaller game on the website, and it is a game called Sunderfolk. Did you check this out at all, Matt?
No.
It is a turn-based strategy RPG that is meant to be played on the couch, and you can only play the game with either your mobile phone or a tablet.
That would explain why I didn't pay attention to this.
Yeah, I mean, I did mention it in the blurb, what it is, but this, for whatever reason, this has really resonated with you guys. All the comments underneath the video, like, were things like, interesting, oh, wow, stuff like that. What was that PlayStation thing that they did where you had to use your mobile phone to play? It was like an adventure game. I can't remember what it was called now. But this goes way above and beyond that. Like, that was just basically like, hey, let's decide what they're going to do in this adventure game. Like, this legitimately, like, you're choosing your attacks and your spells from your phone. And again, this was far and away the most popular game on Sifted as far as indie games that are kind of flying under the radar. The other thing, too, is I believe this game is one of those indie studios that's made up of a bunch of people from other big budget AAA games. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of had some built-in interest for a lot of people. But again, it's very rare to get games that are unique or play in a unique way anymore. And Sunderland definitely is. It's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series in 2025. So a little bit of some time to wait here. But how do you feel about games like this, Matt, that use alternate control mechanisms other than the controller?
In the words of the guy from Mad Men, I don't think about them at all.
Okay. Well, the thing about this, Matt, is that it keeps you from having to buy extra controllers. So if you're like, oh, I have 4 people over to play, they already have the controller in their pocket, so they can just pull out their phone, they can sync it to the game, and off you go. So I think there's a place for it. It's not.
If I can find 4 people who want to come over and play a turn-based strategy game on a couch, I guess.
Or just 3 people who want to come over and play video games on a couch anymore. That's so hard. So I do admire the idealism of this game. I do wonder how practical it really is. If you have a family, though, mom and dad and 2 kids play it together, that makes a little more sense. But you're right, there isn't a whole big scene for in-person multiplayer gaming anymore, sadly. It's just not the way people operate anymore. So anyway, it's called Sunderfolk, and it's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series in 2025. It is our New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week for GameFace, episode 407. And we did have one more game to cover today, but unfortunately we have run out of time. We're not going to have time to get to it today, but we'll push it to next week's show. And I'm not even going to surprise you and tell you what it is. You have to wait till next week. However, let's do a little Q&A. We'll answer a couple Q&A questions because we just haven't done it for a while. I had actually planned to not do Name That Game this week and to just do Q&A. And I think I'm going to do that going forward, one episode a month. I think we're going to do Q&A. Because I think it's important for us to connect with you guys on that level in this show. So going forward, every once in a while, we're going to do Q&A instead of Name That Game. We had planned to do that today, and we're going to do it right now. So if you got any questions for us, hit us up. We'll bring up the chat so everyone can see your questions. JMRain99, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Threadzilla, thank you for Twitch Prime. AJ the Legend Watson says, I think the game you were thinking of is Hidden Agenda. I think that's right, actually. I think that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good call. I saw some questions up here. Here's a Mass Effect question for you from Squishy Muffin. Do the Mass Effect games still hold up in terms of gameplay? Love them back in the day on 360. Haven't played them since, though, but always think about playing the Legendary Edition.
Yeah, the Legendary Edition fixes a lot of Mass Effect 1. Like, it brings Mass Effect 1's gameplay up to par with the others and makes a lot of tweaks, and it's definitely... If you're going to play the Legendary Edition, yes, absolutely holds up. And in fact, if Shane said suddenly, it's like, I'm shutting it all down. Show's over. We're never doing it again. I would go right downstairs and start a playthrough of Mass Effect. Again,
Yeah.
I would play Mass Effect Trilogy right now if I had no other obligations and no other games I had to play for anything else. That's the first thing I would do. Would play Mass Effect Trilogy, start to finish.
I mean, it's your favorite game of all time, I would guess.
The trilogy, I would say, is my number one game of all time. Yeah, if you take it as a whole,
Right.
like a unit, yes,
Yeah.
Mass Effect Trilogy is my favorite.
I knew that
game of all
about you.
time. Number 2, Shadow of the Colossus.
Wow.
If you make
I
me
kinda
choose,
knew that too.
Maybe choose individual games, I would probably go Shadow of the Colossus number 1, Mass Effect 2 number 2.
Okay.
But like, yeah. Yeah, I would, and then I would play all the Yakuza games in a row, starting at 0, going all the way through until I died.
It's
basically.
actually the Matt Q&A today. Zed Saber Juno, will Matt get the Lunar Collection?
Yes, absolutely. I can't promise I will still like it, but I will get that collection to support that kind of thing.
Okay. And then Emperor Dread, I think you answered it in the show, but maybe he just forgot. Where did you get the Megatron from last week?
I got that from Robosen's site, the company that makes it.
How do you spell that?
ROBOSEN.
Okay.
And then you can also get it from Hasbro's online store, but I think it costs more there.
Okay. Interesting.
I think it might be more now. I think the pre-order price was like $800, and I think it's $1,100 now. But it will probably drop pretty quick. Like, these things go on sale pretty regularly. Just keep an eye on it. And I think Grimlock was like $1,600.
Several comments about...
And now you can get Grimlock for like $900 now.
Wow. Several comments about Megatron in the YouTube version of the show. People
Megatron's
were
pretty
like,
cool.
Yeah, people were all over it. They're like, damn, man.
He's got presence in a way that the other two kind of don't, in the sense that he's the first bad guy they've made. He's got that. He's a little more forceful. He's got a little more stuff involved. He reacts to molestation. You know, it's like it's more happening there.
Yep. Vincent says, is Shattered Space better or worse value than that one quest they wanted to charge like $6 for via Creation Club?
Oh, it's definitely better than that. Yeah. This at least feels like a designed quest chain. Like, I mean, but it's just the thing is, it just doesn't feel any different from a quest chain. This I would have paid $6 for. That other thing is nonsense. That Creation Club thing is nonsense.
Okay. We got a couple more.
There's more work. I mean, there's a lot of voice recording and stuff. I mean, $30 is probably a fair price for what they spent making this. I just don't think it's different enough to warrant what they're trying to sell it as. You know what I mean? Like I think if this was in the main game, you would never have called this out as different from the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's just the Varun quest line.
Yeah, I mean, it's like after talking to you about it, it's like I said, I feel like I could have just found that in one of the missions that I never finished before I finished the game.
I think that's a pretty fair statement.
Yeah.
As someone who's played the
a
vast
lot
majority of the
more
game.
than I have. Yeah. And then Yakov 226. How long is this generation going to be, especially Xbox?
I mean,
I'm saying
another 5 years at least.
I think 5 might be a little much.
We know the Pro. They got the Pro coming out, and then you got another Xbox.
I think the next Xbox is 2026.
I mean, look, technically, the Switch 2 is the first next
And
generation
it's next
console.
Year. Yeah.
We aren't going to consider it that probably because of the power differential, because it's going to be about on par with the existing generation console. But technically, Switch 2 is the first of whatever the next number generation is.
Yeah. We just talked about this last week, actually, when we were talking about the new Halo going to Unreal Engine and maybe be a multi-platform. We talked about all that. And we said that we agreed with some of the rumors that the next Xbox may be coming in 2026 to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Xbox and Halo.
Although I think that's probably more of an Xbox Series Pro thing.
You think so? You think they'll do a mid-cycle refresh?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to put a new system out yet.
Interesting.
What are they going to put on it?
What do you mean put on it?
What's going to be the launch lineup for that? They haven't
even got Call of Duty.
They haven't even gotten the Series X launch lineup out yet.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we'll take one more question. Minority Games, which one is your favorite Goku? I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what they all are. I just played that game, and I'm like, I don't know what all the characters look the same, but their hair changes colors, or they're short, or they're tall. I got lost in that game. And then the final one, Cinetyke. Any interest in the recent Netflix Tomb Raider animated show? Will we ever see another AAA game entry in the franchise? That is happening, Cinetyke. It's in development by Amazon already. It's been in development for years already. In fact, we may get the first look at the next Tomb Raider from Amazon at like the Game Awards this year. That was what I would bet on.
Tomb Raider never dies.
Yeah. As far as your other question, the Tomb Raider animated show, did you see the reviews for that, Matt?
No.
Oh boy, it is getting laid to waste. I mean,
get laid to waste because it's not a good show, or because everybody thinks she looks like a man?
Because it's not a good show. Well, they're saying it's not a good show. The reviews I read didn't say anything about her appearance. They just said that the show's just abysmal as far as the writing and the plot and everything. They just said it's really bad.
I mean, it is Tomb Raider, so.
I mean, it's like trying to fly like eagles when you're working with turkeys.
I mean, I thought it looks pretty good. I've seen the trailer, but I don't find Tomb Raider particularly compelling as a narrative.
Yeah.
I like Tomb Raider because of the puzzle solving and the exploration.
Me too.
I like Lara as a character for the most part. I like Crystal Dynamics reboot trilogy Lara.
I like real Lara, not the weird like triangle boobs Lara from the PlayStation 1 era. Yeah. The one that's actually like a person.
An actual character. Yeah.
Okay, well there you go. That's GameFace episode 407 on
one day she'll become the Tomb Raider. We get there.
If they do that, they have to end the franchise, right?
Once you can't you then just make Tomb Raiders after that?
Yeah, right.
Isn't that the point? I thought that was the point. Was you're going to do the game where she became the Tomb Raider, and then you could just make Tomb Raider games after that.
Where she is the Tomb Raider.
She is now the Tomb Raider, and she can raid some fucking tombs.
It seems that way.
But then she's got to rise, and then she has to cast a shadow, and now.
Then she's got a reboot.
Get on with it.
Anyway, thank you for watching. Thanks to our chat. I think you guys can see, even our chat folks, you have to see how much better the show is with you guys in it, right? Like, I'm so glad we got you guys back in there today. Thanks to everybody who shows up here every Tuesday at twitch.tv/SIFTD Games at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We are here every week. Come check us out. I think the show is great live. We get you guys involved. If you get active in chat, you're going to be in our show. We make a point of it. Our community is awesome, and you guys make our show better, and we appreciate it very much. We are supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD, SIFTD, without the E. For $4 a month, you get all our content early, at least 4 days early, pretty much. For $2 a month, you get all Pactor Factor a week early. But if you help us out with Twitch Prime, you get Pactor Factor day and date. And if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, if you're watching on YouTube, go down below. The instructions are below. It's very easy. If you've already linked your accounts, just click the link down below and go click that button and give us a free $2.50 a month. It's awesome. We really appreciate it. Our numbers have been going up. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It makes a huge difference for me. So please do it if you can. And then finally, if you don't have any money, you can still help us. If you're listening to this show on a podcast service, review the show there. Give it 5 stars. Best podcast ever. Do the same thing on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that other crap. Ring the bell for notifications. But I think the best thing you can do is make sure you like the episode and leave a comment in the episode. And you can see that it is working. Our views for this show on YouTube have gone up every week since you guys started doing that. So first of all, thank you. And second of all, please keep doing it if you can. So we'll be back next Tuesday right here at twitch.tv/SIFTD Games. Have yourself a great week full of great games. We'll see you then. GameFace is up and out.